Good morning, everyone. Welcome in. Welcome in. We're so glad that y'all are here with us this morning. We'll give everyone just a moment to get logged in. I hope everyone's doing well, staying dry in this fun weather we've got coming through here in Tennessee. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Again, thank you so much for carving some time out of your incredibly busy schedules for what I hope will be a really helpful morning of some great professional development and community and camaraderie among all of us throughout the state of Tennessee. My name is John Palmer Ray. I'm one of the co-chairs for our Tennessee Virtual Drive-In Counselor Workshop. I work at Vanderbilt University. I'm joined by the fantastic Carolyn Bizot. Carolyn, do you want to say hi, introduce yourself?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. And just to echo John Palmer, I want to thank you all for joining us this morning to, again, just learn some, share some advice and insight and experiences that we can take back to our schools and serve our students. So I work at Belmont University in our admissions office, serving as assistant director and admissions counselor for our Metro Nashville schools. And so again, just happy to have you all here with us and looking forward to listening in and learning right alongside you all.
Perfect. Thanks, Carolyn. Before we really jump into all of the fantastic content that our presenters have put together for us in advance of these sessions, just a couple of really quick housekeeping notes. First off, again, thanks for joining us. We understand that this is through a virtual format and you may be logging in from school or from home or from many different places. So please feel free to take the time and of course space that you need to conduct your daily business. However, we have built in some breaks to the schedule, as you may have noticed. So we hope that that may allow you a little bit of space and time to know that you're getting kind of a 10 or 15-minute break upcoming to, run to the restroom, get coffee, console a distressed student or parent or whatever may arise on this Friday. You may have also seen whenever you registered that you can receive NBCC credit for these first two sessions. So please make sure that you're following those instructions if you do need to receive those credits. As you've probably put together by now, we are doing this through Zoom webinar. So we cannot see you or hear you, but we can feel your good vibes through the computer, of course. And because of that, you'll want to make sure to utilize the Q&A for any of those questions that you may have for our panelists. And I know they may have different ways that they want to engage with you. We also hope that you will complete our survey at the conclusion of this event. For those of y'all that have joined in years past, you know that we traditionally do this in person. We were in person at Belmont University last year and transitioned to this virtual format in hopes of reaching more people from across the state of Tennessee and cutting out some of that kind of travel time and travel costs. Also, I think kind of the powers that be were on our side with the weather that's coming through today. I'm glad none of us are on the road zipping up 40 or 65 or 24 today. So I think that worked out well. But we're really curious to hear your feedback on this being done through a virtual format, the content of the sessions, registration process. So please be honest with us and let us know as we continue to assess this program. Also, just a couple of really quick kind of SAC notes that I wanted to share with y'all. Shout out to everyone who participated in the Day on the Hill program that happened a couple of weeks back. I heard that it was a great success. I was reading kind of the write-up that SAC sent out a couple of days ago. Also wanted to mention that summer seminar faculty applications are due March 30th. Summer seminar, from my knowledge, is a program designed for some of our newer professionals within the college counseling side. So if you're a newer professional, you may really benefit from attending summer seminar. If you are an experienced counselor, we may really benefit from learning from you. So you may want to consider filling out that faculty application. That'll be in the middle of July on the campus of UNC Charlotte. And also, I hope I see everyone at the SAC annual conference next month in Jacksonville. That's from April 23rd to 25th. you know that I'll be there and I'll be at the social. So I hope to see y'all at the SACAC conference next month. So those are my few housekeeping items for y'all. With that, we will go ahead and transition over to our first session, catering to the needs of the individual student, demonstrating cultural sensitivity in college counseling. So the floor is yours, Jessica, Shelby, and Janice.
Good morning, everybody. How y'all doing?
Good morning.
I'm going to get ready to share our slide deck. Here we go. Shelby, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. So as John Palmer said, our session this morning is discussing catering to the needs of individual students. And so we have a little about us slides going through next, if you want to go ahead and click over.
All right, so a little bit about me. So my name is Jessica Hardy. My pronouns are she and her. And I have the pleasure of serving as Director of College Guidance at St. George's Independent School in Memphis, Tennessee. A little bit about my school. We are a 3-campus school. So we have a 3-campus model where we have 2 lower schools and 1 middle and upper school. We are an independent school. However, our students represent about 39 different zip codes in our city and around our area. So our students are coming from every space, every corner, every entity, every space. And so I have the pleasure of working with students to think about what happens after St. George's, thinking about college, career, things like that. I am a first-generation college student and graduate student. I was first in my family to have that experience. And those of you who've been to Camp College, which Janice will talk about a little bit later, I shared my story that my mother and I actually earned our college degrees at the same time. I went in person and she actually earned hers online. So that's super exciting. I did graduate from the University of the South in Sewanee, Tennessee. And I had the opportunity to continue my education at Northeastern. So, but the biggest part about this is that I spent 9 years in college admission and student life. And now I'm technically in my 8th year here as a college counselor, serving here at the school, but also having college fairs around the area, advocating for students, advocating for a counselor. So I'm super excited for this opportunity.
Hi, and good morning. My name is Janice Neal. I am the Assistant Director of College and Career Success Programs with the Public Education Foundation in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I, like Jessica, am also a first-generation college student. I have older sisters who received their AS degree, but I'm the first one in the family who received the bachelor's degree. I've been at the foundation for 31 years, and the foundation's been around for 33. In the last over 20 years, I've been working specifically with high schools and college age students, although the foundation is K-16. As Jessica's mentioning later, I will talk to you about one of our programs, Camp College, which is continuing to be held at Sewanee's campus. But a lot of our work is always centered, as it should be, around students and helping them along their journey. And we will talk about some of the other programs. I'm not going to take up time right now to talk about some of the amazing programs that we do at the Public Education Foundation, because I want Shelby to share her story.
Thank you, Janice. My name is Shelby Stone, and I am a college and career coordinator at Stratford High School through the Martha O'Brien Center. I have earned my bachelor's in social work from Belmont and actually just graduated in December with my master's in school counseling from Arkansas State. I've been with Martha O'Brien for 9 years in a few different capacities. I actually came to the Martha O'Brien Center as an intern in my undergraduate program my senior year, and I fell in love with the work that the Martha O'Brien Center was doing. And so I continued on and did 2 years of AmeriCorps service, and then have been on with them in a full-time capacity since the summer of 2016. Martha O'Brien is a nonprofit located in East Nashville that has, a multitude of programs serving from cradle to career. The programs that I work with are specifically, we refer to them as academic student unions, and they're located in 3 Metro Nashville public high schools and 1 Metro middle school. And so those programs kind of act as a third space between school and home. So it's a space where students can go after school, receive tutoring, a safe place to go, an extra snack. But then during the school day, I work with our seniors and helping them develop post-secondary plans and to graduate on time. So this morning, just as we get, oh, sorry, go ahead, Janice.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. We
Just-
love to start meetings off always talking about the norms when we're talking with students and with various groups. And it's important that we're always open and willing to learn and share our stories and be engaged. A lot of times you have to create a safe space. And so the more you can tell your own story when you're working with other people, the more they're willing to learn and be engaged. And we want you all this morning to think about how you can use some of what we're going to be talking about this morning in your own work. I know you don't have to be sick in order to get better. And so we love to respect the opinions and the experiences of each other, because we will always, when we're talking, find commonalities. And we always say there is always a workaround, because as we're helping students get to the next level, we're also learning ourselves. And so we hope that you all will learn as we're learning and talking to you this morning.
All right, so a way that we're going to make this a little bit interactive, because it is a webinar, the topic of cultural sensitivity, what does that mean to you in your work? But we want you to find one word, because of course we make a beautiful word cloud to share with you later, but take a minute. You can utilize the QR code there, or you can use the website to log in your answers. Just think about, what does cultural sensitivity mean to you in your work in one word? What does that look like? What does that mean for you? We're gonna give you a few minutes to think about that. Oh, I see some answers coming in already. This is good. Oh, here we go. Yes. Thank you so much. That way we know you're there and you're listening. It's super exciting to be able to have this opportunity. I'm going to leave it up for a few more minutes before we go to the next slide. So that way you will have time to capture it. I know it takes me a little time to scan in a QR code on my phone. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move to the next one. And I will also drop the information into the chat, so that could be helpful for people to do that too. Okay. I guess I'm thinking about our conversation and cultural sensitivity. Something that has been helpful in conversations with working with students, and also when I've been to different college campuses, is thinking about bias. And as soon as I say the word bias, I'm sure some of you are like, ooh, let's not go down that road. Let's not have that conversation. But I feel like that is helpful as we enter in different spaces. And I remember being at a college campus, and we were about to review some fake applications to kind of think about what happens in the processes. And at this one particular school, they encouraged people to think about their biases before they even opened up applications. And they did that with their admission counselors also. So the way they put bias as kind of a place to start with, just think about who you typically root for. Who do you typically see yourself in? Who do you typically get excited about moving on, and who do you have a trouble connecting with in that? And thinking about, if you understand what your biases are, pairing yourself with someone else that can help check those biases. It's helpful when thinking about helping students to and through college. And thinking about the difference between implicit and explicit bias is a big deal, and we wanted to definitely put those two definitions on the screen, so that way we're entering into the conversation with a common definition and goals. So explicit bias is more conscious, on a conscious level, something that you that is clear, that is expressed, is outwardly, you perceive it as a threat, that is something that is on your conscious daily. Implicit bias is more unknowing, it's unconscious, and can be a little bit harder to pinpoint or understand. So what we've done is, actually, we're going to share a video with you that we at our school have used with our teachers to kind of start the conversation about that area too. So enjoy.
Implicit bias.
Implicit bias.
Implicit bias.
2016 was the year that implicit bias went somewhat mainstream.
Yeah, so when Hillary Clinton mentioned implicit bias in the debates, our phones started blowing up, all our friends started emailing us about it.
But what is implicit bias? Implicit biases are basically thought processes that happen without you even knowing it. Little mental shortcuts that hold judgments you might not agree with. And sometimes those shortcuts are based on race. First, some clarity. Saying someone has an implicit bias is different from calling someone a racist.
The word racist is a highly loaded term, right, here in American society. A lot of times, when people are using it, they're thinking of the kind of old-fashioned Ku Klux Klan style racist.
But implicit bias isn't anywhere near that, explicit.
Implicit bias is something that comes out of ordinary mental functioning, out of how the mind normally works.
We've all grown up in a culture with media images, news images, conversations we heard at home, our education. Think of that as a fog we've been breathing our whole life. We never even realized it, what we were taking in.
And that fog causes associations that lead to biases.
I somehow know that if you say peanut butter, I'm going to say jelly. That's an association that's been ingrained in me because throughout my life, peanut butter and jelly are together. And in many forms of media, there's an over-representation of Black men and violent crime being paired together.
And because of that, I actually deep down inside have been taught that Black men are violent and aggressive and not to be trusted, that they're criminals, that they're thugs.
With all those associations, I'm not trying to let us off the hook, but in some ways, none of us stood a chance.
Starting today, we'll post a video a day dealing with one challenge of understanding implicit bias and its relationship to race and exploring ways we might combat the problem.
One more thing, if you're seeing this and thinking that it doesn't apply to you, well, you might be falling prey to the blind spot bias. That's the scientific name for a mental bias that allows you to see biases in others, but not in yourself. We're biased.
All right. And also, if you wanted the link to that, you can look up the peanut butter jelly and racism location for that. So hopefully that's helpful. Let me go back and I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Could you talk a little bit about what we're going to share next?
Yeah, so I know one thing we're about to share is Jessica's going to pull up the word cloud that y'all all just thankfully contributed to. So we can kind of look at what, we're all coming from different parts of Tennessee. Even the three of us are from the Southeast area. The three of us are from literally all the different triads of the state. And so we think of different things when working with our different populations of students. So cultural sensitivity can mean different things in, in urban areas, in rural areas, but also it's just, nice to hear what different people think when they hear cultural sensitivity.
So some really great words I see in here is listening, consideration, awareness, appreciation, open-mindedness, respect, inclusiveness, inclusivity, yes, knowledge, honesty, compassion. I think you're right on the right track. This is exactly what we're going to be leading into. And the reason why we wanted to do these definitions and to lay the groundwork is to kind of tell you why this is important in our work and what we do and the students we're interacting with on a daily basis.
So going back to like the general topic, we wanted to kind of look at trends that our schools and our students are facing, and then practices that we may utilize in combating those trends. So first, we kind of noted that the number of graduates from our different high schools are decreasing and becoming more diverse. So we have, I'm not going to read directly on the screen, but you can see in a 10-year span, there was an increase of 6% in Hispanic students. There was a decrease in about 8% of white students and a 2% decrease in Black students. In regards to students who are graduating from high school. And then our next trend was looking at the increase number of English language speakers and undocumented students. So the percentage of public school students in the United States who are EL students, again, looking at a kind of almost 10-year range, was higher in 2019. Looking, that was considered 5.1 million students compared to in 2010, it was 4.5 million students. And then another trend was a decrease in the number of students going to college. So THEC put out a report called the College Going in Class of 2021. And this showed that the college going rate has been trending down over the past 5 years. And we also know that COVID has been a big impact upon those numbers, especially since 2020. And so there was a 9 percentage point drop between 2019 and 2021 and looking at the decreased number of students going to college. And then some other trends include the value of getting a job versus completing a high school diploma. So this little infographic is something that I've personally used with my students that, you know, on the left, it's looking at the average weekly incomes for various levels of education. And on the right is the unemployment rates for those levels of education. So as we can see, you know, those who don't graduate with a high school diploma have a lower average weekly earning and a higher rate of unemployment compared to the very top. Those who reach a doctoral degree have a much higher, really almost triple the amount of someone who does not graduate from high school and a much lower unemployment rate. And then finally, the last trend we kind of looked at was transition to college and helping students with barriers to success. So some of those trends that we thought of were, you know, things that our students are facing: transportation, having to work and provide for their families at home, the cost of attendance rising at colleges, and anything and all in between. I know that probably when you think of barriers to success for your own students, you're probably thinking of other things they may be facing, such as homelessness or parenting. For our undocumented students, the having to overcome the barriers of providing all of the documentation, trying to get into school, and then being faced with the reality that they don't qualify for most financial aid. So it almost becomes impossible for them to go to school. So there's many different barriers that our students face.
And I think the conversation about these trends came about because we were just having conversations about the barriers that our students do face. Like, just, we were just having an open conversation, and like, there's data to support this. Let's make sure we show that, because I know all of us have like anecdotal information about what happens with particular students or different situations, but it's not just you're not by yourself, and there's actually information to back up what you need as a counselor, but also your needs in your schools to kind of push students to think about what comes next. Janice, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the practices we talked about?
So when we were brainstorming and preparing for this webinar, we started talking about what we do in our individual daily jobs. And we were talking about how we're utilizing social media and technology to share information, especially since the pandemic started. We were talking about various tips and tools that we're using to help students become more independent, because we cannot hold their hand and keep our loving arms around them and then thrust them into the world that's not going to support them in the same way. So we have to make sure that we're preparing students to be more independent, to be those critical thinkers and have those ideas. We were talking about specific programs that each of us have utilized in working with students, and we were still finding commonalities that we use in our various cities. We've shared virtual tools that you'll see listed here. We'll continue to talk about, but you cannot continue to help the students if you're not continuing to learn yourself. So we started talking about professional development opportunities as this webinar and other things that SAC provides. And our partners with CBOs, which is like where I work, in various colleges and universities. When you're talking about life after high school, you have to actually let students experience life on a college campus through a tour some sort of way so that they'll understand what you're meaning. Otherwise, how can you tell someone about a college if they've never stepped foot on a college campus? But then we talk about the work that we do and creating these authentic relationships, being present, being a member of what we call the community of care team. It's not a one and done. We see these students, we take ownership. I call the students that work with me my children. And I say, you become one of my children, and I'm going to do what I need to do to help you along your journey. So these are just a few of the practices, and I know you all do similar ones, and there are many more we could talk about.
I think that's absolutely true. I think we're going to share a little bit about each one of these things, that what we do in some of our spaces, and some practices that we've taken on, and to kind of to give you some options and some opportunities to think about what you could do to move your office forward, to move your engagement up with your students, to connect with them where they are.
So this was an example when we were brainstorming. I mentioned how we use social media, and when everyone knows you talk about FAFSA and you can send information, but how do you make it quick and easy, something that you can post on social media? So these were just a few simple examples, but also reminding students to stay motivated. So they love memes, but putting these memes into something that you can share on social media and helping them remember struggling is a part of life and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you start to build these relationships, students will sometimes say, thank you for sending an email or sending something on social media. I was having a bad day and all of a sudden I felt like you gave me a hug. That's one of the best compliments I can ever get for my work. And additional tips and tools that we are working with students. As you see, I try to do with some of our work monthly motivational messages. Again, you can easily tell these are pulling memes and information online, quotes. In 2021, of course, with the pandemic, where students were going to high school and college and then finding out they needed to be virtual, and it was a lot of unknowns. So giving them self-care tips and tools for them to stay healthy, and reminding them that, they're not in this struggle by themselves. We are their community of care team. And even though we may not be in person to see them, we're still thinking about them and caring for them.
So with my program, one thing that I kind of have developed is can be a paper version that we distribute to students, but also distributed through, we utilize Schoology, Facebook, Instagram, any of those methods. I send out a monthly newsletter to my seniors that some of it is, we shout out our students who have been accepted, reminders about FAFSA or graduation, upcoming information. So there's kind of a information session on the front and then a calendar on the back that they're able to reference. And then additionally, one thing that we've adopted this year is a bathroom bulletin that we post in every bathroom within our school. And kind of like Janice was saying, we play on some of the things that our kids like. So memes and a little joke, but then also it has a way to give them that information, give them resources in a safe place. So we make sure that a part of that on every month is a suicide hotline, connections to youth programs within Nashville or sexual assault line, so that if something is going on and they don't know where to get that information, it's posted in their bathroom and they can access that. And then we also highlight a student each month to, shout out them for something great that they're doing. And it's become something that the kids look forward to. And they even are like, when can I be student of the month? Or they get so excited to see their friends being the student of the month each month. So these are things that were developed utilizing technology such as Canva or even just Microsoft Word, but then we can distribute to our students electronically to continue sharing information and motivation with them.
Absolutely. And thinking about, just think about what fits best in your community. So if it's Instagram, if it's TikTok, if it's whatever might be next coming up, thinking about what fits in best with your students. I think one of the things that I've started doing, because they do love to see themselves on social media, is that whenever a student hits submit to a college, I tell them to come by and I post their picture on our Instagram page. And so they share with their friends. So it creates a college going culture that students get excited about seeing themselves, kind of similar to the student of the month. And they can get excited about hitting submit to college. And so that more of them are getting excited about making those submissions, but also thinking about where do they visit the most. So like thinking about the bathroom bulletin, that's amazing. Like I have to give Shelby a shout out about that. That is an amazing idea to have that right there where students are going to be anyway. But also where do they check their homework? I think we utilize Canvas. And so this past year, we created a Canvas class, a Canvas course for college guidance for seniors to give them tasks to do to make sure they're moving through the process as they should and meeting those deadlines. And also move that into the junior year to really think about how to kick off their college search to be able to utilize those things. So think about things that work best in your communities and think about how you could utilize some of these examples to kind of keep students motivated to and through. And I think we had a conversation about even once students go to college, they still come back and visit some of those spaces and need us to kind of still help them answer those questions. We talked a little bit about helping them find resources on campus because oftentimes they know who we are and they're still new on their campuses, that they're still trying to figure out who their people are on those spaces. So they utilize coming back to our social media pages, but also working with us and answering, who do I go to if I need this to be done?
I think technology and social media is also a way that we can push ourselves as professionals. As Jessica mentioned, we want to look at what our students are utilizing and how we can reach them. And sometimes that involves pushing ourselves out of our comfort zones. So it's, if you're not comfortable with, doing things with technology, there are so many tools and resources that can teach you how to, utilize Canva or how to create a tool. And we'll reference a few of those in a minute, but even, Jessica, you mentioned TikTok. That's something that our students at my school are very much into this year. And so they encouraged our program to create a program TikTok where we let the students kind of develop videos. And then they started asking the staff to develop videos. And they pushed me out of my comfort zone and made me do a TikTok dance. And now they're like, no, Miss Shelby, you got to do more. Like we want to see more of it. And I'm like, that's not really my comfort zone. However, it's a different way to reach students. So, always with any of these things, it needs to be.
And Shelby, an additional thing, because I have TikTok, but I hopefully will never be on there. I encourage students to help make TikToks for me so I can use them on social media, because in that way they're giving back to the programs that they said have helped them. And they love that when they see something that they help create, post it on social media and they share it with others. And it's amazing that they will come up with ideas and say, can I create a simple TikTok, or can I interview someone, or how can I help give back?
Absolutely. I think giving students that ownership is a huge piece. I similarly have a student, she's my TikTok guru. And so anytime we're getting ready to post a video, I say, here, take my phone. I have to approve it before it gets posted, but she loves having that ownership and, being able to take that leadership over a thing that we're able to use to promote our program.
Yeah, I think you can send out a number of emails, a number of posters around the school, but if you do this in the video, people are all about it. If you do this, or, I want to rock or anything, they're going to look at it. They're going to show up. They're going to be present. It's amazing how that changes even the viewing of it. I think even one year, since we didn't have a lot of people coming in person for like a financial aid sessions, we decided to go live and utilize that. And also people could go back and watch it later. So like we went live, I did the spiel about financial aid and what to do next. People responded and they kept watching it. So like that is kind of the goal, is to get information out. If in any way possible, is to get information out to help them be better students, families to progress through high school and college. So yeah.
And I think that's something else we referenced, is like that was a tool I utilized in the pandemic, was if my students weren't responding to my Zoom calls or my text messages, I started videoing demonstrations on how to register for the ACT, how to apply for college. I know Jason C is on here. I would always share out his FAFSA demonstration videos. So that's another way to utilize technology, is either going live in a session, or, you know, hosting a webinar with your students or families, or, you know, recording yourself or doing a voiceover on how to explain something so that you're able to send that out, and so students can go back and reference it.
And though a lot of things have moved back to being in person, I still have families who want to know, is session is going to be recorded? Is there information we can watch later? Because people are super busy. We were just talking about people working and having to balance family responsibilities. And so that is still a thing, even though we are less COVID, it is still a thing that we have to think about all of our students and how we can reach them the best. All right, so there were some specific programs we wanted to talk about in working with students and thinking about how to help them be successful in exploring what comes next after their school, or to give them support. And so some of the things that we've done at St. George's is to incorporate some things into the school day, as well as think about things to help families. I particularly wanted to create things in the school day because students are already here. They don't have to find a way to get back to school or get back on a certain day, on a Saturday, find a way to get here. Because the students who I want to make sure I'm touching on the students who don't quite have the same transportation options that a lot of our students have. And one of them is our College Exploration Week that we're going to be holding right after spring break. And it is a time for 11th grade students during their flex time. We have like a study hall for all students. We'll be engaging in conversations with college representatives. They'll be hearing about essay writing tips. They'll be hearing about selective college admission. They'll be hearing about you want to be an engineer. What does that mean? Other STEM fields. So there's just it's an opportunity for college representatives to tell the stories that I would love to tell, but it's only a few of us and a lot of them. And so bringing in and tapping into your network of representatives to be present, to talk about the things you really want them to talk about. And another example is guidance for undecided majors. We have some students who are not sure what they want to do, and we want to make sure they're hearing from the colleges that they cannot know what they want to do, and it's okay. So we set aside that time, and working with your school to set aside that time to give that space inside of the school day is beneficial. We just completed our case studies program on Tuesday night of this week with 10th and 11th grade families, and college representatives came in to talk about what is it like to actually review an application. So instead of doing a PowerPoint presentation where you go through the parts of the application and you talk about what comes out, what letter of recommendation looks like, they actually get a chance to look at a few and make decisions based on that. So I think like that is super helpful for them to kind of get a sense, instead of doing something that I'm comfortable with and putting up a lot of slide decks, they get a chance to have conversations and engagement. And the last thing is like thinking about what happens earlier. So a lot of times in our college counseling and guidance counseling careers, we're thinking about 11th and 12th graders. I think that we found that working with students younger is actually helpful to get them ready to think about what happens after high school. So think about working with 10th graders, having touch points, talking about their value systems, thinking about how they engage with others, and having those value system engagements translate into what they're looking for in a college or career is helpful to do that. Making sure we're having 9th grade class meetings so we're in front of them so they can see us to be able to answer their questions. And also starting to talk to middle schoolers, because sometimes they are having those conversations and talking about it. And if they're not, us being present kind of gives them a simple nudge to make them think about it, and also keeping those things in forefront in mind. Janice?
So I mentioned earlier Camp College, which has been around for 24 years. This is our 24th year this year, the Camp College for Rising Seniors, where we take them to Swanee and they experience college life by staying in dorms and learning about what they need to do to be successful their senior year. The best part about that program is students walk away with an essay that they can attach to college applications or for scholarships. scholarships. And they are further ahead than their classmates who choose not to participate. And that's not me assuming, that's me hearing from students saying, my senior year started, school starts in August, colleges start opening applications up in September. I was better prepared. And because of the pandemic and because we felt students were falling through the crack, we decided to start a program, a one-day introduction to college planning for rising juniors, current sophomores. And again, it's never too early to start that conversation about college, how to not only get into college, but how to get through college. And what I tell students, college is not your end game, a career is your end game. We're just trying to help you make informed decisions. And so we take them on college campuses so that they can experience college life, talk to the college admission reps, and then when they're back at their schools, they're working with their school counselors and their college and career advisors and their community of care team members so that they're making the right decisions to be more independent, to make those informed decisions, even if they don't know what they want to major in. I listed Benwood Scholar and Gateway Scholars. These are a couple of other programs of the foundation where Benwood Scholar were students who were selected, and we provide a last dollar scholarship to help them. And the community of care, we know life happens. Some students may have started at a four-year college, and when the pandemic hit, they had to return home for various reasons, but they're still in college. That's the most important piece. They're still surviving. And as I mentioned, career is the end game. So a program we started in 2016 is called Step Up Chattanooga, which is a work readiness program that we connect with businesses that typically don't hire high school students. And we listened to the research, and they said if we could train students on those soft skills, those work readiness skills, they can train them how to do the job. So we train students, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders in all of the Hamilton County public schools. And we tell them we're guaranteeing you an interview, not a job. But if you listen and you work and pay attention, and the companies see you as a best fit, because that's where you open up the conversation about transferable skills. What are those skills that you need that you can utilize in your life, not just for the moment? But they love the fact that these are paid internships, because a lot of times you can't get the kind of job you want unless you have the experience, but you can't get the experience until you have the job. So we're having real world conversations with these students. And then my last one was we started social networking, making these connections, because none of us got to where we are today without someone helping us. So this is a pilot program that we started at one of our high schools where we're working with all of their sophomores. We're taking them through the work readiness skills. We're taking them through understanding what social networking means and how it affects them. We're taking them through what relationship mapping looks like. What are those ties to people who can help you? And the earlier you can start these conversations and make them start thinking, the stronger their foundation will become. And so all of these programs are, as I said, always work around helping students along their journey, however that may look. And I am not the person trying to make the decision for the student. I'm just helping them to start thinking. And as long as they know I am always in their corner, supporting them and connecting them to other individuals. Shelby.
Yes, ma'am. So as I previously mentioned, Martha O'Brien is a nonprofit in East Nashville. And so it is a agency that is basically, I kind of like to think of it a tree with many branches. So the program that I work in is just one of those branches. As I mentioned, it's referred to as the academic student unions. And those are modeled after college student unions, where it is a space in 3 different high schools and 1 middle school where students can come, from 2 to 5 every single day. It can be, a space between school and home, a place where they can receive additional tutoring, participate in various different clubs, and then also just have free time as well. One benefit of being at multiple schools is at least I know within Nashville, a lot of our students can be very transient. And so it is not uncommon for a student to transfer from my school to another MNPS school. So even earlier this week, one of my seniors transferred. And so I was able to connect with a colleague who was at an academic student union at another school and said, hey, can you just check in on them? It's their first week at a new school. And the kid came in and, was happy to see a face that already knew his name. Within that, or within the Martha O'Brien Center, another program we have is post-secondary success. And so we have 4 college coaches that work with students basically starting in their senior year, but then throughout college to help them persist through each year of college so that they ideally can graduate. And if they can't graduate, or if they have to take a break, then there's still someone there to support them and help them get back on track or figure out what is next. So these coaches work with our students in navigating financial aid, class registration, finding resources on campus, or even, getting back into school after a time away. And they work with our 3 schools from the academic student unions, but also any student who is seeking those resources. So it's not uncommon for our students to refer their friends to a post-secondary success coach. Similar to Step Up Chattanooga, as Janice mentioned, Nashville has a program called Power Youth. It was formerly known as Opportunity Now. And it is a program where students can receive work readiness training and high school internships. So 14 and 15-year-olds can participate in the work experiences. And some of those are kind of like, I like to think of it as a summer camp that they're getting paid for, where they're in a fun activity, but they are learning real world experiences and they get paid for it. And then 16 through 19-year-olds can participate in the high school internships, which similarly as Janice was mentioning with Step Up Chattanooga, it's where students can work in these actual businesses that might not typically hire high school students, and they're getting that real life experience for 7 weeks during the summer, where they're going in every day and they're one of the team during that time. Another program that I did not put in, but I like to plug in as well, is that we partner with Metro Schools Promising Scholars. So that is another summer program that our students in any MNPS school can participate, and they have promising scholars from elementary to high school. On the high school side, there are academic pieces, and then for the past few summers, I have helped lead a college and career readiness club for rising 9th and 10th graders. So we're going ahead and having those conversations of what is college? What do all these terms mean? And what are the things I need to be able to reach the goals of my future? And then Martha O'Brien Center, as I mentioned, has cradle to career programming. So there's programming for elementary, middle school. There is high school equivalency testing preparation. We have a food bank, all the different things. So we want to be a one-stop shop for families in need and help them overcome poverty in Nashville. So referencing back a couple, I know we're getting close to being on time, so I'm going to try to go quickly. Some virtual tools that you can utilize. Teacher Pay Teachers they have free and paid access where you can get tools from other colleagues. I've gotten a lot of different ideas from there. I've gotten a lot of things from the free section, or even if it's the paid section, I can get inspired by those actions to be able to try to create something myself. And then, groups such as Facebook groups can be a way to connect with people across the country and learn. Either if you have a question, you need to bounce it off people, you pop it in there, or you can get suggestions, or if you have something you want to share out. So a tool that I found really beneficial is the high school counselor connection on Facebook. But there's many different groups similar to that you can join in as well.
I do love those. Sometimes I just go in to just see what's happening and get a sense of what the temperature is in different parts of the country. And so that's always helpful. I love it.
So I included a program that's sponsored by the Public Education Foundation that we created called Degree U. And this is a college search engine, but it's based on Hampton County students who went to various colleges where they were successful. So I know a lot of times students that we work with may hear from folks in the community who had different experiences where they may or may not have gone to college and they may be given misinformation. So sometimes it's easy to guide them to different sites or to do the near peer mentoring and connect them with someone so that they can get better advice. And so, you know, all of these tools and tips are ways that you can connect with students in various ways. We can't stop them from talking to folks in the community. We can just help them make more informed decisions. And so this college degree, college search, and the tips that Shelby was sharing that we've been discussing are all of variety of ways that we can help students and sometimes, you know, allay the misinformation that they may get from other folks.
And Janice, I feel like that references a question that was just in the Q&A, and I think Jessica just marked it as answered live, is obviously we can't control information that's being shared from others. So I think it's just making sure that we are supporting our students with all the tools and resources that we can provide and making sure that we are providing correct information. It can definitely be, you know, questionable waters when we have a colleague or someone within our school who's giving information. And so we don't want to bash or talk down upon those individuals, but, you know, just making sure we let students know, you know, maybe that's coming from their personal experience, but here is, you know, fact-based information that you can pull upon.
And I think that's helpful. I think a lot of our conversations with information coming from outside come with like, someone told me, and it's never a specific person. This someone, whoever this someone is, tell them to come find me. Thank you. But I usually ask students like, did that person work in the office of admission at that school? Okay. Did that student go through the process last year? Okay. Did this person work with college admission people to kind of get this information? Okay, so that's helpful. And here's what I know from my experience. And so I don't poo-poo that person's opinions because it could be someone truly trusted to who they are. It could be a family member, it could be a close friend, it could be someone they look up to, but it's more like, let me add my perspective and you can choose. But what I've seen in the past is this. And I think that's very, very helpful. And I think utilizing the tools that we do have, like Janice was saying, the review, but if you use Naviance, if you use SCORE or whatever you might be using, it does have information about our students applying to those schools. So it really does go from what might be out there as conversation to what that is. And oftentimes I say that everyone's experience is different. And two people can go to the same campus and have a very different experience in the same space, in the same residence hall, in the same classes. So it's always about the lens through which you kind of see different things, and encourage them to like find the information on their own, to think about what might be best to kind of take that next step.
And that lens goes back to implicit bias. Okay, again, I know we're running close on time, but just continued professional development includes things like this: participating in professional developments through either online or in person, conferences, journals, continuing education courses. A lot of colleges will have opportunities, or even like I know here in Tennessee, collegefortn.org. or gov. I'm apologizing that I didn't double check that before, but there is, they have a webinar series that you can participate in. And it's something that I often refer a lot of new professionals into this field to check out. That kind of explains all of the college going jargon, and so that they know what tools exist and what information is out there so that they can then serve students.
And I think having your community around you, I like to give a shout out to the MAPS team that's on the Zoom right now. In our area, the Memphis area, private school counselors get together to actually talk about different opportunities, talk about ways we can help our students. And so having a monthly check-in or having a way to kind of connect with each other through breakfast or other ways is actually helpful to kind of make sure that you're advocating for definitely all your students and thinking about how we can work together. Because at the end of the day, our goal is to help students get to college. Like that is our goal, to help them be successful in life, in their careers. So that's definitely our hopes.
Thank you, Jason, for popping in the chat. He put in the website collegefortn.org. So that's a really great tool that, again, has some of these things. So again, programming through college-bound organizations or colleges and universities, it's definitely unique to your area. But these can be immersion summer programs. So, giving Carolyn a shout out, they have University U that they do. Belmont utilizes with rising 11th and 12th graders, early enrollment programs in summer. So, if colleges have where students can come and do a summer program before actually enrolling in the fall, those can be really great tools. Looking at on-campus supports such as TRIO, support services, even just, the advising offices. Every college is different, and some have really great detailed programming for students that can get them in and get those answers and have those people and not just a website to be able to answer questions. And then clubs and organizations can also be a great way for students to get connected, and us staff connected as well.
I think the one thing we wanted to leave you all with is that entering in different spaces with students, you never know who's coming into your space. You never know their story. You never know their experiences, what happened that morning, what happened right before they came in, what's going to happen later on, what their fears are, things like that. And so kind of having a conversation about being the community of care, because we are a big support system for many students, whether they have people in their lives or not. Oftentimes we are their support system. And so as they come into our spaces and they're asking questions, engaging with us, just be present. It means so much to students when you're actively listening to them, and engaging with them and showing that you're fully there, and making sure that you're connecting on the same levels. I think the biggest thing on this slide is kind of like the conversation that students are sharing stuff with you. And oftentimes, especially when you're reading their essays, a lot of those stories come out. A lot of the stories are coming out, and things they may have never said out loud, may be spoken in your space, maybe spoken in the time together. So students appreciate knowing that you hear them. And so giving them your attention when they're present with you, and also showing them that you hear them. It takes, we may mess up, none of us are into messing up as we're engaging with students, but knowing that you're attempting to hear them, to be in that space. When they tell you a story, you respond with them. It sounds like you're saying this. Am I correct? Let me make sure I'm right in what I'm hearing. Interesting, you said that. Can you tell me more about it? Oftentimes they need that space to kind of process and to talk more about what they're thinking and feeling and doing. And so we wanted to leave you with a little bit of information about active listening to remind us all as we go into different spaces what that looks like, because at the end of the day, they just want people who care about them. They don't care where you're from. Students just want people who care or who are in their corner. And so, yeah, anything else, ladies?
I know you kind of touched on this a little bit, but a big part of active listening is definitely checking for that accuracy. And again, that kind of goes back to our implicit bias lens. Is we don't want to take any bias that we're not even aware of, and that shade what we are hearing from students. So always when we're doing that active listening, it's like, hey, you says this, am I hearing that correctly? Is that what you meant? Did I misunderstand? Let your students be the teacher, learn from them and let them share their experiences, because we definitely don't want to put our own experiences upon them, or, have our own biases, whether that's implicit or explicit, impact their experience.
Ooh, I forgot about this slide. I thought we were done. So just being in their spaces, that's all this one is saying, finding different ways to engage with students in your space, outside of your space, through video, through being present, through visiting in different spaces. So that's what that one is about.
Yeah, it's just being a comforting person, being a welcoming and smiling face, in areas that might be outside of our role.
All right. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jessica, Shelby, and Janice. I know we're all virtually clapping at home right now. I can feel it through the Zoom webinar. Really great information, I think, for all of us to take into our practices. So thank you so much for starting us off with a bang. Let's take a quick break right now. We will reconvene at 9:45 Central, 10:45 Eastern. I'll put that up on the screen for y'all as well. So please run and get some coffee, run to the restroom, do what you need to do, and we'll see you back here in just about 12-ish minutes or so.
All righty, everyone. So it is about that time for us to come back together and move on to our second session. And I hope that you all were able to get up and stretch, maybe grab some coffee, grab some snacks, and are ready to listen into our next presentation. So I will turn it over to our presenters, Susan Bolinger, Beverly Brooks, and Carol Ryan, for our next session on analyzing our place and identity as college counselors. All right, so presenters, you can take it away.
Thanks, Caroline. Hi, everyone. My name is Beverly Brooks, presenting with Susan, and Carol will introduce ourselves in just a moment. But our presentation today is analyzing our place and identity as college counselors. This is obviously a space where we end up dealing with a lot of not just the pressures that students face, but also their families. We manage a lot of emotions. We also end up being supportive of our colleagues, which can be a lot for us to manage as well. And so this presentation will look at the myriad of ways where you can kind of create space and grace for yourself in order to make sure that this is a profession that hopefully continues to feel like a calling and not just like work. So to begin, who are we? Susan, you can go first.
I think Susan is still jumping on in just
Perfect.
a second. I haven't seen her log in yet.
It's all good, then I will go first. My name is Beverly Brooks. I'm the Director of College Counseling at St. Mary's Episcopal School in Memphis. I am in my 15th year of working in admission and in college counseling. I've worked in co-ed environments, actually worked at St. George's where Jessica is. I've worked with all boys. I was up in Philadelphia for 5 years at an all boys school, and I now work in an all girls school, all of which were independent schools. I worked in what I consider a traditional environment. So St. Mary's and St. George's, I worked at Rhodes College in admissions. And then I also worked in a somewhat unique environment. So for the 5 years that I was in Philadelphia, I worked specifically in a school for elite athletes. It was the first independent school in the country to be directly affiliated with a major professional sports team. So all of my students were elite soccer players, and they played for the Philadelphia Union's either first team, second team, or their academy, which I went into having played soccer for a semester in 7th grade. So I certainly have seen kind of a range of of environments, but also a range of asks and what your day looks like and how it constantly changes. And I used to say that anticipating my day sometimes was like anticipating being abducted by aliens. It just kind of felt fruitless. So it was an opportunity for me to come to St. Mary's, to come back to college counseling. I had gotten into a role where I felt like I was wearing so many hats that I couldn't stand. And I felt like I wasn't doing the students or myself a service by being in that environment. And so getting the chance to come back to college counseling, which is a profession about which I feel so passionately, has been really meaningful.
I will go ahead and jump in. Susan we are texting or we are emailing right now. She's logged in but cannot get joined to the presentation. So I am Carol Ryan. Can you hear me? Beverly? Okay, I was just checking with the one person I can see. Okay, I'm Carol Ryan. I'm at the University School of Jackson in Jackson, Tennessee. I am in my 25th year at University School of Jackson. This is my 10th year of experience ending my 11th, I guess, in college counseling. Before that, I spent 14 years in the classroom. And before that, I worked at Memphis College of Art in the 90s. In the admissions office. I'm also a first-generation college student, and so it just amazes me every day that I get to help students go on that journey that someone helped lead me through, because it did take some mentoring and some coaching. So very proud of that. And we are going to be talking about a follow-up to the things that Jessica and Shelby and Janice talked about, all of the ways that they pour themselves into their students. If you're going to do that, you are going to need to find ways to keep yourself in a good place mentally and physically. And that's going to be a lot of what we talk about. Is Susan in
Yes,
yet?
I can see her.
Can you see me?
Yes, hi Susan.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, but I'm so sorry. Our systems aren't really great with Zoom. They do better with Teams, but I'm so glad to be here and glad to finally get on. I am the director of college counseling at Bearden High School, and I have worked only in high school and colleges my whole career. So I have worked in rural, I've worked at private schools, I've worked out of state, I've worked in state. I've taught first year studies at UT and at Walter State Community College. I got my master's at Vanderbilt in higher education and my EDS in school counseling from UT. So I love working with students, and Bearden's about 2,100 students in a suburban school in Knoxville, Tennessee, with a diverse student body, K through 12, and just excited to be here.
Awesome. Okay, so our session today, we're going to go over a couple of different types of boundaries to set for yourself. So technological boundaries, scheduling boundaries, professional boundaries. We'll address some mental health strategies. We'll talk about the value of professional development. We'll address briefly an article that was written by our NACAC president, Angel Perez. We'll talk about strategies for self-care. We'll go over a few reminders about this role and the world that we're in and the role we play in it, and then address any questions, concerns, or comments that you have. And just quickly to let you know that there is going to be a slide where we ask for some engagement in the chat. So be prepared for that.
All right, well, I thought I would start off talking a little bit about some of the technological barriers. And I will be honest with you, I am not great at like setting these boundaries often. And so that's why Beverly suggested that maybe this would be a good topic to, because sometimes we need to push ourselves right outside of our comfort zone. But I think one of the suggestions might be to not necessarily always check your email first thing in the morning. And because once you pick up that phone in the morning, then it's on, like then the stress comes in, then the all the things, the to-do list gets to start going. So I think allowing yourself the time and the benefit of not first going to your phone, maybe get your coffee first, or maybe get your shower, and before you actually enter into your work world. I think also using mail apps, they can be your friend, but I think one thing that I do is, because I get, just like most of you, hundreds of emails a day, but particularly in the fall season when recommendations come in, recommendation requests from different programs or different colleges, I just set up a folder and it all just goes in that folder. So then I know that I'm not going to miss anything when that happens. Setting your out of office emails also I think is super important when you are, it kind of, again, sets boundaries as to when you are going to be available and when should people expect to get a reply back from you. So, and a trick that someone had showed me that you may know, but you can actually schedule your emails to go out on the bottom of your screen under where it says send. And it doesn't have to go out right then. You don't want to impose on other people's life outside of work as well. So you can actually wait to send that at whatever time you like. Turning off your emails on your phone or changing how they're necessarily delivered. Maybe even, not having them. Mine used to always have a tone that would ding when that came through. And I think not having that constant reminder that someone's trying to get in touch with you, again, that to me, that just builds stress. And you really are the calm at your school. Like your counseling office really should be the calm place, like folks go. So if you're stressed, then that's going to go off and be felt by your students as well. So I think anything you can do to kind of make that lesser, or be the person in the office to help with that. Promoting calmness and self-care is important. I also too feel like allowing yourself the opportunity to go out of your office. And again, I'm a big proponent. I love to do things face to face. Like, I feel like that's much more important. You build your relationships there instead of just sending an email off, like go to the teacher's office or the curriculum principal's office or the club sponsor. And you can follow it up with an email if you'd like, but I think, again, making those initial connections just gives you a break and gives you an opportunity, because really we went into this business not to work with computers. Like, we love working with students and we love working with families and people. And so spending all day long on your computer, which you could easily do, I think is, again, not why you went into the counseling profession. It doesn't bring the joy. I think that is the reason why you went into the profession.
All right, I'm going to be talking about schedule boundaries. So when John Palmer and Caroline reached out about speaking today and about topics, kind of like Susan said, I chose this one because I thought, well, maybe that will encourage me to learn how to do this better in my own life. So setting schedule boundaries for me, sometimes if you don't learn how to do that, your body will teach you. You have to do that. As I shared with my co-presenters, I had to deal with a health issue last spring and fall. When I went to SAC last year, I laughed with some of you because I wore these very neon pink athletic shoes to SAC last year. And it was because I thought I was injured, but what was actually going on is I was having a reaction to COVID that ended up being inflammatory arthritis that just kept getting worse and worse. And so by the time school started, I could barely walk and would go to work and then go straight to bed. So I had to learn some schedule boundaries so that I could do my job, feel like I was doing it well, and also take care of myself. So here are some things that might help you with that. Blocking time for emails. I have started blocking the first 30 minutes of each morning to answer my emails, and it does not usually take that long, but I put a star beside emails as they come in if there's something that need my attention. And then we'll go, if I don't need to answer it immediately, and most of them, and we'll talk about that in other slides about how most things are not emergencies, then usually they can wait until I have blocked off time to answer emails. Putting that star beside them, I come back to them. I got another great tip from a colleague recently. I was at the SAIS conference. Another colleague, in addition to blocking off time to do emails, will begin a draft and have a draft in the folder where she has begun starting to answer that question, just to come back to it later if that works for you. Setting time to touch base with colleagues. The thing that makes this job so much fun is our interactions with colleagues and building relationships with other people. So having that as something built into your day, so it doesn't feel like a treat, but a necessity, is very important for me. I think many of us, or most of us in this job, are extroverts to a certain degree, that we thrive off of our interactions with other people. So that is just as important as being there and working on your computer screen. Scheduling time for drop-ins so that a quick question doesn't turn into a meeting. Actually, at our school, we have started doing meetings called huddles, where we're standing, and so you can't be in those meetings for very long, because you're not that we can't stand up for very long, but so that the whole thing is built into, you're not going to be there for very long. So we call our meetings huddles. We'll just meet in a hallway and then share ideas back and forth, and then go back to what we need to do. Of course, no one likes to go to a meeting that could have been an email. Here is a concept. I did not invent these words. These come out of neuroscience, and actually just in my day-to-day reading, I came across these terms, joy snacks and sips. So in the Washington Post just last week, there was an article by a neuroscientist turned science journalist that talked about the fact that to have the best life you can live, you need to have what he called joy snacks, which were not actual snacking, which actually does bring me joy. But the idea that you would do little things that you enjoy, like life can't just be made up of going to concerts or having a special night out with friends. Another neuroscientist calls these sips. So creating little time in your day to do the things that you enjoy. Like I said, for me, that might be catching up with a colleague for something not work related. If you enjoy Wordle or apps like Spelling Bee, or sending a text to a friend and catching up on that. One of the joy snacks that was mentioned in the Washington Post article was how some people, like, the best part of their day is that first sip of coffee. And that would definitely be one of my joy snacks. But making a cup of coffee. In our office, we have the chocolate drawer that we have the really good Dove chocolate in, or treats from Trader Joe's. And so we have colleagues who will come by and then, for just really quickly, grab a piece of chocolate, say hey to us, and then move on their way. So things that make that can help break your work day up a little bit. Some of you may work at schools that have a 24-hour email response policy. That would also be here at USJ. You might have a parent email and you do not know the answer yet, or it's going to take you some time to get back to them. Remember that great question, I'll get back to you as soon as I have an answer, is also a response and definitely fits within that 24-hour response policy. That's where my method of keeping a star by that email and then going back to it during those scheduled times to answer emails has really been a great help. Gmail, if you use Gmail, will give you a nudge, but takes about 5 days for you to receive the nudge. And so in this way, you're constantly able to wrap back around during your next scheduled email answer time and get back to people so that they feel like you're being responsive to them. I don't know what your schools require in the way of involvement at after-school activities, but any of you who've ever attended any of your students' after-school activities, you know how much that means to them, to see you in the stands, or if the next day you're able to say, you know, that was a great shot that you took yesterday, or that song that you sang in the play was phenomenal. And so even if it's not required, it's just a great way to build relationships with kids. But yet again, you need some boundaries so that you can be present in your own life and with your own family. So this weekend, we have the Addams Family Play. I'm going to be there on Saturday night, but there's some events there was another event this week that I just could not make it to, but I did some homework on what had happened at that event so that I could talk to students about it, and even emailing good luck to a student in advance can be just as meaningful as attending.
And Carol, it's interesting. I typically keep my involvement to the events or the sports or the activities that are a bit more underrepresented. I don't know that my attendance is going to be as meaningful at an event that has hundreds of people as the cross-country meet that only takes half an hour and very few people are there. But it's interesting that you mentioned the play, because last week we just did The Sound of Music. And so I chose to go to the dress rehearsal instead of to one of the performances, because it still allowed me to see the show and I got to see everybody in action, but it started right after school. So rather than waiting several hours and sitting in my office and then thinking maybe I'll work and just starting to drain myself, I tried to find a way where I could be supportive and still be protective of my time and involvement, which I found really helpful. And it was just as meaningful to the kids.
Yes, the event that I bypassed this week had lots of people there. And I've also found that going to student events, it can also cut down my rec writing time when it comes time for that, because I know so much more about the students. So there is a secondary benefit to that, because I feel like those letters just flow a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of professional boundaries, these are some that we've just found incredibly helpful. So I leave my office for lunch every single day. I have not eaten lunch at my desk since I started working here. And that is partially because the school where I work has a culture where you don't eat lunch at your desk, you eat out amongst your colleagues. But what's interesting is that the expectation is that you're in the dining hall every day. And that is not always the best place for me because, and I'm sure you all can relate to this, lunch is when some students, it's the only time they can come to us, right? So what I typically do is I eat lunch about 40 minutes before lunch starts. I bring my lunch every day. And so that gives me the flexibility to heat it up, to eat elsewhere, to eat with my other colleagues who also have that lunchtime with students where they come to see them. And so there's some camaraderie there and some affinity there where we all get to be together, but I never bring my phone. I feel like that is an opportunity where I'm just going to end up checking my work emails, even though I don't mean to, because I'm just clicking around on apps. And I don't find that particularly meaningful. And I really want to make sure that I'm engaging with my colleagues when I get to see them, because so much of my day is spent with students. So I don't bring my phone to lunch. I also, for the most part, I keep my phone face down during the day. So if someone needs to get a hold of me, my email is open all day. I don't text on my laptop, and then my phone stays face down. My family loves it. But it really is helpful for me. And I'm coming from a job where I had to be on my phone 24/7. And so in terms of the moving to a place where this feels sustainable, being less connected to my cell phone has really been helpful. I created a Google Voice number for myself in order to create some more separation. So rather than giving my actual cell phone number out to families, which my number is not advertised anywhere, when I take students on a field trip, for example, we're going on a college tour at the end of March to Baltimore and DC and Philly, the students and the families will have my Google Voice number, which rings directly to my phone, and they can text it, but I can turn it on and off. And I have found that that's really useful because it means that I can create my own availability. So on that trip, obviously my availability will be on the whole time. Once we get back, there's no reason for anyone to be texting me. So email is always the best way to get a hold of me. And so the Google Voice number really does help. Again, I leave my office to eat lunch every day, and that's pretty meaningful for us. I have a lot of colleagues who actually will eat at their desk and then spend some of that lunchtime walking around the track. So find something that works for you. But I think that we're all in spaces where, defining what work looks like and what those boundaries look like is really important. I surround myself with colleagues whenever I can. Again, getting that recharge from being with the adults in your workplace can be really meaningful. And I try to avoid work topics. So when we are together for lunch, I make sure that we're steering clear of talking about students, about a meeting unless someone needs to decompress, about what's going on the rest of the day. It's really about, what are you doing tonight? What are you doing this weekend? What vacation is next? How are things going with your kid? We really try to keep things lighter and less worky so that way it doesn't constantly feel like we are talking about work. This is one that I've really had to work at, learning how to say no or not yet. I work in a place where I'm grateful to have some boundaries set for me and others that I get to set. So for example, I had a colleague who left towards the beginning of last year, and she asked if I would take on the responsibilities of her job until they hired someone. And in that moment, wanting to be supportive and coming from an environment where I felt like I had to say yes to everything, I said, oh, I think that could be really interesting. I didn't say yes. And then my supervisor actually came to me and said no on my behalf. And so being in a place where those boundaries are set for you is really healthy. Being in schools, I think that's rarely the case. You see that the next bullets, schools have a tendency, however well-intentioned, to identify really capable people and then to make sure that they are doing all the things at which they're really capable. And sometimes that means that proportionately, it feels like you're doing more than you should. And so being able to say no or not yet is something that I've really had to work at. I'm a work in progress on that for sure. But to be able to say, these are the things that I do, these are the things that I do well, and I do them well because they're the only things I do, I found to be really central to my success and my well-being here. And then social media is an interesting one. I have colleagues, and I know Carol can attest to this as well. I have colleagues who are also parents. And so that can get very murky in terms of your engagement with other parents on social media. St. Mary's has a policy where we're not allowed to befriend students on social media. There is no such policy for what parents can do. And so I just don't allow any parents to friend me on any social media platform. And I'm pretty clear with families if they ever attempt that. But it's certainly not an appropriate way to communicate with people. And I know, Carol, you've got an interesting anecdote about that one.
So my children attended school at USJ. And so my daughter is graduating from college this year. My son is about to graduate from high school. So my number is just out there. My social media is also out there, and I'm friends with a lot of parents on different social media platforms and on
Y'all, did we lose Carol?
I think so. I think we may have.
Okay. I can hop in as she's getting back on. Essentially, one of her parents DM'd her on Instagram at 3 a.m. We will not speculate as to what was happening at 3 a.m. that she thought was worth DMing her about. But again, I think the social media boundaries are some that are incredibly important. And for those of us who are in this role where we have children within the school, I think the firmer you can make those boundaries, the better. One of my colleagues is a parent of a sophomore. And so she has, the sophomore class is her class because those are the girls that her daughter's gone to school with since pre-kindergarten. And so they don't know her as Dr. Fill in the blank, they know her as Miss Kate. And so helping her kind of create those boundaries, she's excellent at it, but it's because she's had a lot of time to get good at it. And so now that we're in the upper school and she's meeting with all of those girls about schedules and about next steps, she's our director of academics. I think that her kind of keeping church and state separate has actually been really, really useful. So we really encourage you to be mindful of those boundaries.
So different mental health strategies. I think something comes to mind, or something that comes to mind is it's like the doctor who won't go get a checkup for their own benefit, like there's something wrong with them. So I think counselors tend to, say, we'll just, kind of take it all in. I think it's really important that we recognize our own mental health and what we need, and leaving work when you can, like taking those mental health breaks when you need to. I know one thing that Beverly in our conversations said that really stuck with me, when she puts her lanyard on at the beginning of the day, and when she takes that off, that's kind of like she's taking work off. So I think that's a really good way to look at that. I think also too, if you're having like some negative thoughts, visualization certainly is something that can work. Just actually visualizing a stop sign is one trick, and just seeing that and being like changing your mindset as to thinking positively after that. Obviously listening to music. I know in our office we often play classical music when the students are coming in. At Christmas we always have or winter break we always have wintertime or Christmas music that's going on, and it really does change the way that students interact with us in our office. It's just it's amazing what just like changing that tone or the atmosphere of your office can be. Taking breaks to go outside, again, I think it's just that changing scenery, changing what you're doing, getting yourself out there. Again, so much research is about how just having physical activity, having to change the scenery can certainly do great things for your mental health. And then there's always there are a lot of good, we talked about kind of separating ourselves from technology previously, but there are really some good apps just like for sleep hygiene, to make sure you're getting enough sleep and eating healthy, and getting kind of making sure you're taking care of yourself, so you can take care of others. I know also, kind of making sure that you are able to share the load with other people. I know my job really changed when I got an assistant. Like I went from a position where I didn't have any help at all to having a person that worked with me. And that was a game changer. But I had to realize that I didn't have to do everything on my own. Like I could give this other person some of these duties. For an example, yesterday we had a scholarship that I usually call kids in. Is like, I really want you to apply to this. Well, I didn't have to be that person. I can share that load with someone else. And I think having that ability to know, is there someone else who could be supportive of your needs and can take some of that off of you, can really help keep you in this profession. Mm-hmm. There are many centering strategies. Obviously, I think one that that I found fairly recently, Woodburn Press has a little business card that you can actually give to students, but it's a QR code that's got calming techniques on it. So it plays like a minute and a half music, and then has all these calming tools that students can use. So I think even even though they can be used for students, obviously they can be used for you as well. But I think there's just kind of gives you a fresh perspective. Taking a day off, just like I know in our district, we have 2 personal days each year, and there are some folks that do not use those days. And I just think how unfortunate that you would not, take time off for yourself just to regroup, whether that's to have lunch with colleagues or have just, whatever brings you joy in your life. Make sure you take time to do that. And then again, if it feels like it's something more serious or something that you can't get out of, making sure that you're using your resources to talk to a counselor or therapist. I feel like in our office, we all have a good relationship with other colleagues. And I know for myself, if there's something that's frustrating, I can go to, my colleagues and just, 5 minutes vent. I feel so much better, just like your kids feel better when they are able to come to you and just kind of, sometimes they just need to vent. So I feel like that's a really good thing, just to seek those people out in your office, at your school, who can support you in that way. And again, it may not be that you need a counseling session, but just those periods that you can just share with others who understand the same, understand your profession and understand what you do every day.
Absolutely. When we talk about the value of professional development, I know the last presentation stressed about this as well, just the importance of being involved in SACAC, but also the importance of being involved locally. So we'll talk about those different opportunities. So obviously with conferences, the SACAC conference is a wonderful way to get to see each other. SACAC is my favorite conference. So even when I left SACAC and I moved to Pennsylvania, I still went to SACAC instead of PACAC, because it just felt so restorative. It was an opportunity to be around friends and colleagues and people who feel like they're in this with you. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to grow professionally. So whether you're attending the conference and you're soaking it all in, or you're presenting at the conference. I know the first SACAC conference I ever went to, I entered it kind of thinking I'll always be someone who attends conferences. I didn't necessarily approach it thinking I would be a presenter. And then I went to my first round of sessions and thought, oh, I have perspective to add too. And I wonder if people wouldn't be interested in it. And since then, it's rare that I attend a conference and don't present, because I always am looking for ways. And even if it's something that I don't know anything about, and so I think that's an opportunity for me to learn more, I always look at presenting as that type of opportunity. And then creating opportunities if they don't exist. So I'm doing that right now with our registrar, and you all might have registrars who feel similarly. And if you do, let me know, because I'm working on it. So I'm working with TAIS and SAIS to put together the same type of programming that we have as college counselors. So an annual kind of summit in Nashville where we spend the day there discussing pertinent topics to our profession, or we have as MACS, as Jessica said, we have monthly coffees or happy hours or something where we all get together and connect. And registrars don't really have that. And so I'm working to help her. We'll start with a roundtable at the TAS conference this fall, but then from there, figuring out how can we create sustainable programming so that way people in our profession, and specifically our registrar, who's also our college counseling coordinator, can feel connected to her profession as well, because there's just not that much available. So in some ways, PD can feel like one of those, build it and they will come moments, but it doesn't have to be cost prohibitive. And so that's where for this first opportunity, we're really just getting together a listserv. So right now we're compiling the contact information for registrars across the state so that way we can make sure that they come to the roundtable, but also to start setting up a listserv so they can ask each other questions throughout the year. So beyond that, I mentioned the local coffees and the happy hours. Those are not just opportunities to get together and vent, though I will say, and I totally agree with Susan, sometimes that's really cathartic and meaningful. But other times it's also seeing what trends are schools seeing that we are, or are we the only ones who are noticing this piece? Or in Memphis, it's interesting because we're in Memphis. And so we sometimes have different reps, college reps, than other schools within our consortium. And so that can be interesting to see, what are you hearing from this rep versus what are you hearing from this rep? Do those two things jive? It allows us to be our best for our students because it gives us a chance to be together and to share ideas, to really support each other in the work that we do, and to also find ways to support our students. And like I said, please don't let distance limit you. Zoom is a really wonderful way to connect with colleagues. And so I think that is, obviously we're doing it this morning, right? So even just this opportunity to connect with each other, I think is incredibly meaningful, and one that I'm so grateful that SACAC has found a myriad of ways for us to connect with each other, because I just think there's so much value there.
Beverly, I just wanted to add a little on that too, particularly if you're newer in the field. This is the way I feel like you can really avoid burnout, is going to the PD opportunities that you have. Because it just makes you a better counselor, and it gets you with the people that totally understand what you do. I know early on in my career, I would get a lot of invitations to go to counselor flyings or go to conferences and that kind of thing. And she's like, well, I don't have time. I don't have time to do that. I've got a full schedule. And you really just have to say, I'm taking the time. Like, your school can go on without you for those few days. So I really feel like making sure that you make that a priority, because it benefits you, just trifold. So.
Yeah. And I know Carol, who currently, by the way, and I know we're all dealing with inclement weather. It's pouring here right now. Carol's Wi-Fi is out at her school. So we are sad that she's not here to join us, but I know she wanted to bring up something that she just came back from a counselor fly-in. And I think the counselor fly-ins are another way, if you can participate in some way, to find ways to connect with other folks, but also that type of time while those fly-ins. And I think this is something that we always try to stress to our colleagues to make sure they know that we're not just on vacation. Conferences are the same way. We're not on vacation. It is work. These are opportunities where you can also, stepping on a college campus and getting the chance to learn about their incredible programs, to get the chance to connect with counselors from all over the country and sometimes all over the world, has a lot of meaning. And I think that, for me, the first fly-ins that I ever went on also allowed me to listen more, to understand what makes campuses tick. It was the first time that I got to step on a campus and see students I knew there, which also makes your job easier. So there are just a lot of ways in which that can be valuable. I know for Mason, who's the other counselor in my office, because fly-ins have been few and far between right now. Again, we're kind of coming out of COVID and budgets are slender, so is ours. Finding ways where we say, okay, can we take this money and then I'll, get her on a campus that's drivable. And so we just cover that cost so that she can start visiting schools. So again, finding ways to professionally develop. It doesn't just have to be conferences, but I will say that of all of the professional development opportunities that I've had the chance to be a part of, the most meaningful ones have been within SACAC. So attending dry run, being on dry run faculty, being on summer seminar faculty, getting to connect with colleagues and present at something like this, all of them are meaningful and all of them are available. And so I hope that you'll consider doing something like this in the future. So NACAC President Angel Perez put together an incredible article. It's brief, it's linked here, and I won't read it to you, certainly, that we don't need to do that. But I did include a couple of meaningful quotes that I hope you find interesting, and honestly, they might resonate. So he talks about the fact that he had his dream job and he's only been in it for 2 years and he's already experiencing burnout. And how is that possible? And so he says, from an outsider's perspective, he was thriving and internally he really wasn't. And so what worried him is that he really just went to work and then came home. He was doing nothing else. And in this space where he was doing the nothing else, he was just working more. And work used to be something that really energized him and gave him a lot of fuel. And it was now something that's really not necessarily bringing him down, but not centering him the way that the work used to. And so he says, the deeper my fog became, the more I worked, despite it always having been his coping mechanism. And he noticed he was starting to lose interest in things that used to bring him joy. And I think that's kind of the moment where you say, okay, back to the slide that Susan was talking about with mental health strategies, that's the chance to speak to somebody. And so he talks openly about the fact that he went to therapy. And so that is a form of care that he thought was really meaningful. So he says that the most important thing he can do to lead effectively is to care for himself. And so knowing that care means different things to different people. For him, it was meditation, nurturing relationships, finding joyful things to do outside of work, and practicing gratitude. Finding this, for a lot of us, as a vocation, it is a calling, but that needs to be paired with, as Angel says, joy and self-care. Otherwise, it won't be sustainable. Susan, I believe this slide is you, the strategies for self-care.
So we just wanted to kind of have you think a little bit about what are your non-negotiables? What are you really centered in? What are the things that make you happy and bring you joy? And your day should bring you joy at some point, at least one item. So again, making sure that you take time for lunch. That's hard. I know when you have particularly if you have a large caseload, but I think those are really, really valuable things that you can do just to kind of keep yourself from burning out and working through lunch. So we had a question that was in the that if you would put your answer in the chat about what does self-care look like for you. So if you'll answer that in the chat. That would be great.
I'm putting mine in the chat. I do spelling bee with one of my coworkers every day. So I don't know if y'all are familiar with spelling bee, but it's kind of what comes after Wordle. So you do Wordle, you hopefully get it in a reasonable number of guesses. And then spelling bee provides you letters for putting words together. And it's fun for us. We're both very competitive people, so we find it really enjoyable, but it is also a chance for a little bit of quiet. So for me to come to her office, sit down, and for a couple of minutes throughout the day to sit down and say, okay, let's figure this out. I feel like that's really helpful. Our other interests, we've got exercise. That's a great one. Wordle, Susan, so Wordle and spelling bee are mine as well. We've taking walks with your dog, reading non-work literature. I will tell you a big one for us right now has been, this is maybe terrible, but it's quite pertinent given that the verdict came out this morning, but myself and probably a dozen coworkers have an Alec Murdaugh group text where we've been following the trial as a group like throughout the past 5 weeks. And so I'm actually taking Monday off as a self-care day, and I have saved all the possible things I could watch for Monday. So I've already watched the HBO, I've already watched the Netflix, but 2020 and Dateline tonight are both about Alec Murdaugh. So we will all I'll be talking about them. So I'll have to meet the group text so I can watch the things tonight on Monday. But yeah, just finding ways to connect with each other that feel meaningful. I also have a group of colleagues where we go out to dinner every 2 weeks, no phones and no work talk, which is really fun. We've got Bravo TV, absolutely, Real Housewives, all of them. Getting outside, exercise, Semantle. I don't know Semantle, but I'm into it. Fiction reading. Kelly wants to be in our group chat. Do a lap around the school twice a day with a colleague to get out of your office. I always say that these step battles aren't going to win themselves, people. So getting out of your office, walking around, I think that's huge. Weightlifting and playing block doku. Y'all, I'm getting all of these ideas of things to do during my day instead of work, and I'm loving it. Block doku and Semantle. I'm into it. Perfect. Okay. Y'all, we appreciate your participation. This is great. Okay. And our final, our reminders. And I think that these are things that I have to remind colleagues regularly, and I think it's always worth looking at. The first is that you may be changing lives, but you're not saving them, right? Like we don't have pagers. We are not on call. If you are a school counselor who is managing the mental well-being of your students, that's obviously different. But even in that capacity, that's something that you're doing in concert with other mental health professionals, hopefully. So please know that there are very few things that you're doing right now, especially if right now is after the school day, that you can't be doing tomorrow. With my coworker Mason, when I see her taking her laptop home, I make her promise me that she's only taking it home to watch Bravo, and she is not going to be doing work at home because there's just no need. There are certain times of year where we absolutely have to do that. In the fall, writing letters at home, editing essays and providing feedback, managing concerns, helping families with the FAFSA. Those are times when having your laptop at home makes good sense. But I don't own a laptop other than my work laptop. So if I take it home, it's in order to watch TV. I'm actually not using it for email unless I have to. So I think that just reminding yourself that we're not doctors. So again, we might be changing lives, but we're not saving them. There's no such thing as a college counseling emergency. So I was with our sophomores on a college tour yesterday. We toured Rhodes and University of Memphis. And I had a parent voicemail that asked me to call him at my earliest convenience. And then he emailed me asking me to call him at my earliest convenience. And then he emailed me 2 hours later to ask when my earliest convenience would be. And it was a good reminder because I could have just called him. And I thought, you know what? No such thing as a college counseling emergency. My attention needs to be paid to the 75 girls who are and 7 chaperones who are with me, taking them around this. They deserve my full attention. I will handle this when I get back, and no one's expecting me to do otherwise. So anytime I think, oh gosh, I need to address this thing, I often have to confront, is that something that my work is asking me to do? Or is that something I'm thinking I have to do? And that's a good behavior to unlearn. This next one is one that I really had to remind myself of regularly. Staying in your job is an active choice. We are all, I think, and especially if you're taking the time to attend this today, we are all professionals who care deeply about the work that we do, the students and families with whom we work, our colleagues, et cetera. And you deserve to feel supported. And so if you are somewhere where you don't feel that way, you deserve to go elsewhere. I think that our well-being is so important. We only get one life. And at some point, while the job might be something that you love, the students might be something that you love, the job does not love you back. And so that's something that I really had to come to terms with in my last job, because I truly loved everything I did, but I needed to love myself too. And so that's where I think just reminding yourself that if your job is someplace where you do not feel supported, you deserve to feel that somewhere. And finally, we are at our best for students and for colleagues when we're our best to and for ourselves. So please remember that you cannot pour from an empty cup. We are the best at realizing, hopefully, though I also have some colleagues who are really good at noticing when I might be spicy. We are our best to and for students when we're our best to and for ourselves. So please remember that you cannot pour from an empty cup. So start to think of the things that you need in order to feel like you're at your best. Feel like you have, your full set of spoons, your full cup, whatever analogy that you like to use, and be mindful of when those things start to deplete. Again, there are certain times of year where that really does make sense. We're about to hit the gauntlet of senior events right after spring break. So end of March and April and the beginning of May. And it's a time where it feels like a marathon and a sprint at the same time. And so those might be times of year where I'm more restricted in terms of the times that I stay at work, what types of activities I do afterwards. So again, just protect your peace and your boundaries and your well-being. All right, so that is the end of our presentation. Thank you all so much. We'd love any questions that you have. Please don't hesitate to put them in the chat box. We've included our email addresses here, and so I hope those are useful. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thanks on behalf of Carol. I'm sad that she's not here, but hopefully they have
Take care of yourselves.
Please, yes, we need you.
All right. Thank you all so much for that wonderful presentation. I think that it is so important to really keep these tips in mind as we, continue on with this work that we are all passionate about and that we all love, but that can also take a toll on ourselves. And I think it's very important that we hear these reminders regularly and know that we are part of this community that wants to support each other, and that we are available to lean on each other for support when needed. So certainly appreciate the tips that you have provided, the insight that you have shared, so that we can all just remember that we need to take care of ourselves as well as we are working to take care of our students. So thank you for that. It is time for another break now. So we will break until about 11 a.m. Central, 12 p.m. Eastern. And then we will come back together and learn all about financial aid here in Tennessee and what's going on in the financial aid world. So take a break, stretch out, grab some food, and then we'll meet back up in about 24 minutes. All righty.
Well, thanks. And as always, thanks so much for inviting me to do this presentation. First, guys, I just hope and pray that we all stay safe today with all the, the line of storms that right now are coming through Middle Tennessee. So regardless of where you are, west, middle, or east, hopefully you are or will stay safe today. For those of you that may not know me, my name is Jason Seay. As of March the 6th, which is a couple of days away, I will celebrate my 17th year anniversary with the Tennessee Higher Education Commission and the Tennessee Student Assistance Corporation. Many of you potentially work with my teammates across the state, part of the outreach team. And anyways, I've been doing this for 17 years. And again, today I'm going to share some updates regarding FAFSA and also talk a little bit about special populations, which obviously I built the presentation to be very broad in terms of the definition of a special population. So hopefully this is what you were expecting from me. So I'm going to share screen 2, and here we go. So speaking of self-care, loved all the presentations thus far today. One thing talking about self-care, I will share with everyone that yesterday, I took the day off, being after the March 1st Tennessee Promise deadline. I encouraged my team to do likewise, just to take the day off, just because of all the work that we've been doing as we approach that March 1 Tennessee Promise FAFSA deadline. From a FAFSA update, 23-24 FAFSA. One thing I have highlighted here, obviously this opened back in October. Many of our students ideally completed this prior to March 1. That being said, a lot of counselors have asked us about specifically the backup code. So when the user, whether it's a student or parent, creates their FSA ID, and folks, that's that username password combination that you create in order to electronically sign the FAFSA or currently use the IRS data retrieval tool. You would get a backup code at the very, very end. And some questions that we were asked is, well, what's that backup code used? And it's used specifically in the circumstance where the user who verifies that mobile number, verifies that email address, if they by chance change either of those things after they complete this FAFSA, and they then don't go back into FAFSA or specifically their FSA ID and update with the new mobile number or new email address, that's what that backup code is for. It's as you complete that two-step authentication, if you no longer are getting the secure code to your mobile number because it's changed, or you're no longer receiving the email security code because your email has changed, that's what the backup code is used for. So that's one update that I just want to hit on the top here about what is that backup code. I know many of us really haven't had to use it because this is kind of brand new, but just FYI, moving forward, like for example, myself working with a student who's graduating from your school, and maybe I help them in a year or two with their FAFSA again as a college rising sophomore, or college rising senior, that may be when that backup code is then used. The 23-24 FAFSA, I'm pretty sure we all know this, but specifically it applies students for financial aid for fall 23, spring 24, and summer 24. Why do I highlight this? You know, we do, I think, such a good job promoting the March 1 deadline. But folks, when I think of FAFSA, remember FAFSA stays open. March 1 is just one deadline specifically for one program. So year to year, anytime the FAFSA opens, here's how my mind thinks about FAFSA deadlines. First, you see SEOG. That's the acronym that stands for the Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. This is a federal fund that every college nationwide gets a small pot of this money to award generally to the neediest of needy students. And that money typically is first come, first serve, and awarded as determined by the college. So that's why when we do presentations, and if you have a financial aid administrator, say do a presentation for your students at your respective high school statewide, that's why oftentimes you just hear all of us say, do the FAFSA as soon as possible after October 1, because this is one of those programs that's very small that we don't really talk about that much, because again, it's administered by the colleges, it's a federal fund, but that's why it's so important for students to apply and reapply for the FAFSA as soon as after it opens year in and year out. Number two, the college itself. Colleges have their own deadlines, right? And I'll let the colleges talk to you about their own FAFSA deadlines, but I know some are as early as December 15th, right? Or February 1st, versus our promised FAFSA deadline of March 1st, which you just see next on the slide. But notice the three things I've highlighted here. This is kind of as a reminder. Just because the promised deadline's come and gone, for TSAA priority, folks, that's the Tennessee Student Assistance Award. That's our Tennessee's version of the Pell Grant. That for our Pell Grant recipients, they may also be eligible for TSAA. The priority for TSAA consideration was also March 1, but I've highlighted it because of that word priority. We've been very blessed in recent years to still be able to award students who subsequently completed their FAFSA on March 2, March 3, May 15th, May 16th, et cetera, because we've had some additional funds specifically for TSAA. So it's one of those things, if you're working with a student at your respective high school, or if I even have some college folks on here, if you're working with one of your college students and like, oh my goodness, I've missed, XYZ FAFSA deadline, your approach should always be, well, let's just complete this FAFSA as soon as possible, whenever you're ready to do it. And then Wilder Navy, that's our lottery scholarship for our TCAT students. Notice those that are looking to start the summer trimester, that FAFSA deadline's not until July 1. For fall trimester payment, which is not listed on here, it's November 1st. For Hope Scholarship, to get the scholarship in the fall, you've just got to do the FAFSA by September 1st. So the point is, even though March 1 is come and gone for promise and promise eligibility, it's still time to do the FAFSA in potentially for other state aid programs, as you just heard me describe there. Let's segue into talking about special populations for a bit. First, on the FAFSA, right, one of the questions, are you a U.S. citizen? So a question that I'm often asked to cover is, what is an eligible non-citizen per FAFSA? Well, this is a student that has a green card, or they are considered a permanent resident, right? A permanent resident equals having a green card, which you see to the right as an example of a green card, a student that has permanent residency. So that is a student who is an eligible, right? I'm saying AN space eligible student from a FAFSA perspective. So that means they can be considered for Pell Grant or Hope Scholarship or Tennessee Promise. Also, students that have an I-94 arrival departure record that shows one of the statuses, for example, refugee, asylee, Cuban Haitian entrant, or parolee, these students are also considered an eligible non-citizen on the FAFSA. Students that have a T visa, which are victims of human trafficking, they're also would be eligible non-citizens per FAFSA. And then finally, students of families that have a battered immigrant or child status, they would be considered eligible non-citizens. So again, an eligible non-citizen, that's someone who when they do the FAFSA, they can qualify for Pell, they can qualify for Promise, they can qualify for the Hope Scholarship, right? These programs connected to FAFSA. Now, in thinking about students who may be citizens, but their parents do not have Social Security numbers, or are, and in this case, I'm using the word ineligible, right? In other words, the students are undocumented, or excuse me, the parents are undocumented, but the student is a U.S. citizen. This, questions I'm always asked is, now, Jason, what do we do on the parents with the FAFSA? And this is a reminder that parents that do not have Social Security numbers, they will not need to create an FSA ID for the parent. And on the FAFSA, they will enter all zeros as or for their Social Security number. Thereafter, these parents will print a signature page that they'll sign and mail to FAFSA in order to have that student's FAFSA to process. Now, transition to, independency status. This is not a number I know offhand, but I feel comfortable to saying that 95% of the students that we work with are going to be considered dependent, which means FAFSA ultimately is going to require parents' information in order for that college to determine their financial aid eligibility. But I think it's great for me to remind, professionals, practitioners, on the FAFSA, the student is asked the following questions. If the student is able to answer yes to any of these questions, then they will be considered independent, which means only their information is needed from a FAFSA perspective. So for example, if you will turn age 24 between now and January 1st, you will be independent on the 23-24 FAFSA. If the student is married, or if they have a child, they will be considered independent on the FAFSA. If the student, since they turned 13, has no living parent or has been in foster care at 13 or thereafter, these students, again, are going to be considered independent on the FAFSA, meaning we only need their information to successfully complete the FAFSA. So I always like, and some of you have watched me do the annual FAFSA webinars, and this is a slide that you become accustomed to seeing me present, but this is just a reminder for my professionals and practitioners, as you're working with a student who, might not have the typical home situation, remember your FAFSA dependency questions. And again, if they can answer yes to any of these, they will be considered independent on the FAFSA. Also, from a high school perspective, this is where I often defer to you. Remember, FAFSA will also ask in the dependency status section, is the student considered homeless or an unaccompanied youth? And that is something that, depending on the situation, and this is where I defer to my school counselors that are listening right now, right? If you, as the school or the school district, determine that a student is at risk of being homeless or their situation qualifies them for being an unaccompanied youth, this would also make them independent on the FAFSA, where only their information is needed. Now, before we dive into special circumstances, just to kind of hit that right quick from a special population perspective, I like the question here, who is not a FAFSA parent? So student, let's say they answer no to all the dependency questions in section 3, which means otherwise their parents' information is needed, but who is not considered a, quote, FAFSA parent? So unless the following individuals have adopted the student, remember, grandparents, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, widowed step-parents, these are not considered parents on the FAFSA, right? Unless that individual has adopted the student, okay? So in this scenario, and I think the one we see the most statewide, possibly even nationwide, where you have a student that's being raised by the grandparent, but there is no legal documentation, meaning, that grandparent, never did consider going to a court to get legal guardianship of that student or anything legal for that matter. They just took that child in because they love them, right? And that's their grandbaby, so they're going to raise them like their own. Well, in that situation where there is no legal documentation, per FAFSA, that's a student that's unable to provide parent information because, again, a grandparent is not considered the parent of that child unless they've adopted him. And if there is no legal guardianship per a court document, then this student on the FAFSA would indicate that they're unable to provide parent information and then indicate that they have a special circumstance. These screens are navigated at the end of section 3 to dependency status. Now, once they indicate that they have a special circumstance, which will then skip the parent sections of the FAFSA, once they submit it, at some point, and here we are in the spring semester, this is the perfect time for then that student to follow up with their prospective college to discuss the special circumstance to see if the college will ultimately deem them independent based upon their situation. So other special populations, right? So this is a presentation. I chose not to go over the Hope Scholarship or necessarily TSAC or Promise because, again, those are programs for all students, right, who are considered eligible from a FAFSA perspective. But some of our special populations that we have at our schools, and specifically from a state aid perspective, as a reminder, I've been administering these programs for many years. The Hope Foster Child Tuition Grant, the Step Up Scholarship, the Dependent Children Scholarship. These are specific state programs designed for special populations. So one by one, let's talk about the Hope Foster Child Tuition Grant. So first and foremost, that student's got to graduate from your high school Hope eligible. So in other words, they have to have a 21 ACT, the SAT equivalent, or a 3.0 grade point average when they graduate from your respective high school. So again, test score or the 3.0 GPA. The key is from a FAFSA perspective, and this actually changed after last legislative session where we finally aligned this program with FAFSA definition of foster care. So in Section 3 of the FAFSA, if the student indicates that at age 13 or thereafter that they've been in foster care or DCS custody, then this student is potentially eligible for the Hope Foster Child Tuition Grant, again, if they are also Hope eligible. Here's how this works. All right. Once they complete the FAFSA and indicate by checking the box that at age 13 or thereafter, they were in foster care, right? That dependency question. Once their Hope eligibility is established in our system. So if they already have a 21 ACT or better, then it should already be established. But for those that won't have it until they graduate, then Hope eligibility will establish in late May, early June when you, the high school counselor, sends us their final GPA. That being said, once their eligibility establishes and our system sees that they indicated that they were in foster care at age 13, what we do, and specifically what my colleague Jana McCall does, is she will then send that student's name to the Department of Children's Services in Tennessee to check and verify that, in fact, the student was in foster care at some point at age 13 or thereafter. As long as DCS says, Jana, yes, this student was in foster care at some point at age 13 or thereafter, then this student will qualify for the Hope Foster Child Tuition Grant. Award amounts varies based upon unmet need, not to exceed the average tuition mandatory fees at a public college in Tennessee. To be clear, that's how the potential award is based upon, that average of tuition and fees at a public college, meaning your UTs, your Tennessee THECs, your MTSUs, your Austin Peays, your University of Memphis's. But this program can also be used at private colleges in Tennessee as well, just like the Hope Scholarship can. Our next program, we're going to talk about the Step Up Scholarship. So many of you hopefully have heard me talk about this program. So for our students that have intellectual disabilities, okay, and who may not be able to pursue an associate's degree or bachelor's degree like the general population that graduates from your high school. These 5 colleges, and folks, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Dyersburg State has also been added as a step up eligible school as well. So that's a school I need to add to my slide for those of you in West Tennessee. Dyersburg State now has a special program for these students where basically they can attend the university, or in Dyersburg State's example, the community college, and pursue one of the special certificate bearing programs that these now 6 schools have created. So for if Miss Susan's still on in Knoxville, for my folks in East Tennessee, UT Knoxville has UT Future. In Middle Tennessee, Lipscomb and Vandy, Lipscomb has the Ideal program, Vanderbilt has Next Steps program. In West Tennessee, Union over there in Jackson, Miss Carol may be familiar with this, and Miss Carol is still on. Union has its EDGE program, and Memphis has its Tiger Life program. So again, these programs are specific for those students that have intellectual disabilities and are going to be unable to pursue an associate's or bachelor's like the general population. And so there is a step-up scholarship that we offer. There's a separate application for it. In addition, the student must complete the FAFSA by September 1st. So in other words, if this is a student that's graduating, let's say from your respective high school in May, and maybe looking at Vandy's Next Steps program, then they must complete the FAFSA in addition to the Step Up Scholarship application from us. Generally speaking, these 5 programs you see on the screen, plus Dyersburg State that you don't see on the screen, they know about our Step Up Scholarship program. So typically, as they're working with these students, they're going to let them know, hey, you need to do your FAFSA by September 1st, and you need to complete for TSAC the Step Up Scholarship application, which is a very simple one-pager that we can send them to complete. And again, this program is specifically for our students that have an intellectual disability, just to make that clear one more time at the end there. The final special scholarship that I have that oftentimes you may not hear my team talk as much about during presentations, just because, right, it's just so much information that any of us can share, right? Any of us can do when talking about financial aid, is we also have the Dependent Children Scholarship program. And this is for a child of, Tennessee police officer, a firefighter, an EMT person that's unfortunately been killed or permanently disabled while in the line of duty here in Tennessee in one of those professions. Again, this is one of those programs. Selfishly, we don't want to award, because when I say we don't want to award, we hope that the parent, or a child does not have to go through the loss of a parent, or even the parent having to become permanently disabled because of, serving us Tennesseans as a police officer or firefighter. However, there is a scholarship program for that child if God bless this ever happens, right? The applications is within our TSAC student portal, and deadline for that is July 15th. And the award amount varies based upon other financial aid that the student is receiving to attend college here, specifically in Tennessee. The other special population, just to hit on right quick, which we get often a lot of questions about from counselors and professionals. Jason, what about our students who are ineligible to complete the FAFSA, right? Students that don't have a Social Security number, or, as I hit on the eligible populations earlier. Well, what about those students that again, don't have socials, or perhaps we're seeing a little bit less of this, but DACA students, deferred action of childhood arrival, or students that now have work permits or who are here on F1, J1 visas, right? Those are all ineligible. Again, that's IN, right? Ineligible students from a FAFSA perspective, meaning they won't qualify for HOPE or Promise or Pell Grant. Well, here are just a few resources that I oftentimes will share when I'm at a school and encounter such a student. There is the National Equal Chance for Education program. There's the Golden Door Scholarship. Selfishly, in Middle Tennessee, there's the Scarlet Family Foundation, which has some scholarships that students that are undocumented and quote unquote statuses that are not considered eligible by FAFSA could potentially apply for. And then also from a broader, where I'm not going to be the expertise in terms of the ins and outs of these programs. Again, selfishly in the Nashville area, my longtime colleagues over at the Connection Americas, they have had they work with students like this all the time, and they know colleges that potentially are more likely to admit or potentially even offer aid to students that are considered ineligible from a FAFSA filing perspective. So I oftentimes share Conexión Americas as a resource to such families. And then I know lately my colleague Rita Turchetta, Erica Adams, who serves East Tennessee for me, and myself, we have worked a little bit more with Centro Hispana de East Tennessee, which is a Conexión like program there in the Knoxville area, helping such families navigate the college process and the financial aid process or the barriers that they encounter if they do not have an eligible FAFSA status. So those are a few. This is one of those, guys, we're family here, right? All of us that work together in this line of work. You probably have other resources. Forgive me, I know Memphis has a ever increasing, growing Hispanic population, and I know my colleague Felicia Orr has talked to me about some groups that's popped up in the Memphis area. I'll defer to you guys who may be listening right now, what resources y'all have in that area or other areas across the state when working with such students. In my final 3 minutes, I want to go back and let's talk about FAFSA. FAFSA, specifically the beyond, meaning the 24-25 FAFSA. Hopefully, as you look at this slide and hear my voice right now, hopefully some of you smile or laugh to yourself. Guys, the 24-25 FAFSA is supposed to be the full transition to quote unquote FAFSA simplification. And I'll go to the next slide now. And this shift from the expected family contribution formula, the EFC formula, to what's going to be called the Student Aid Index. However, any of you that probably are connected to any professional groups, whether it's like this, SACAC, NACAC, from a financial aid perspective, SASFA, TASFA, NASFA, NASGAP, right? All the alphabet soup acronyms. I bet through one of those entities, you've read some of the chatter, which is bottom line, the 24-25, there's a lot of uncertainty about it right now. So I think as a professional, as a practitioner, I think we need to be prepared for anything and everything as it relates to the opening of the 24-25 FAFSA. Most recently, there's been talk of in federal code, the FAFSA does not have to open up October 1, and apparently federal student aid might need some additional time to get all the changes related to the 24-25 FAFSA built and embedded and also shared with all the colleges and also high schools from us that's helping prospective college students. And there's talk of potentially delaying the opening all the way back to the January 1st opening. So bottom line, don't fret over this right now. And I say this to say this, we will know more as federal student aid knows more itself. And you guys know this, that my team will keep you updated on all things related to the 24-25 FAFSA as those things become known. But just to set a bar here, I set it low. And what I mean by that is, don't be surprised if we don't know a lot even by August or September, right? I mean, again, we're kind of at the mercy of federal student aid and what they can and can't do and what they feel like they can and can't share right now. So a lot of uncertainty regarding the 24-25 FAFSA. And as we know, we'll have to, even make decisions at the state level as it relates to deadlines and things like that. Guys, that's my team statewide. I think many of you hopefully know these folks and I've worked with these folks for a number of years. I will quickly shout out, my longtime colleague, Annie Trout. left state government, left my team and left state government back in August. Jonathan Donald has, I've rehired him. Some of you worked with Jonathan a couple of years ago or have worked with him in another capacity. Since that time, he is now back a part of my team, covering that kind of Western Middle Tennessee area. And then also Dustin Rawls, longtime Vol State employee, is now serving the Upper Cumberland and the Plateau region for my team as well. And then guys, as always, that's my contact information. Y'all know this, or I think many of you know this. Regardless of where you're sitting and listening or watching me right now, you can always contact me. That's my work cell. And you can text me or call me at any time. But as we learned in last session, I'm trying to do better, not being 24/7 on my devices and stuff like that, trying to do some mental health stuff myself. So, John, Caroline, I think that's all I have. I'm going to stop sharing.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Jason. Really appreciate your time and glad that the weather held out for us as well. So thanks for all of the great information. I believe that Jason was also going to share those slides so we can send them out to y'all as well afterwards. So you'll get all of that great content. We will take our final break before our final session. Again, this is our kind of round robin updates from various schools in Tennessee, just so you know kind of who's on the docket, who we got confirmed for today. We'll have reps from Belmont, ETSU, Lipscomb, MTSU, Rhodes, Swanee, UTC, and Vanderbilt. I know that's a lot of schools. We have instructed everyone to keep their updates to about a 2 to 3 minute spiel. So know that is our plan and our intent. So we hope that will be some good content for y'all and some good updates. So again, Jason, thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Y'all, let's break for about the next 12-ish minutes or so. So we'll reconvene at about 11:45 a.m. Central, 12:45 p.m. Eastern, and we'll be wrapped within about 30-ish minutes from there. So see y'all back here in just a few minutes. Just a few updates on what's going on at each of our institutions right now. We will be going in alpha order, so I'll be last, but we'll kick things off with Carolyn to tell us what's going on at beautiful Belmont.
All righty, can everybody hear me okay? Okay, perfect. And you can see my screen. Is it on presentation mode?
We can see it on, it's like the regular PowerPoint. We can see all of the information.
Okay, all righty. So good evening or afternoon, everyone, and thank you for hanging with us. I will go ahead and start with updates from Belmont University. Again, I'm Carolyn Bisot. I serve as Assistant Director for Admissions for Access, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. And so just a few updates I would like to share. In terms of academics, we have a few of our programs that have recently received national and state rankings. So I wanted to highlight those in our music business, our entrepreneurship program, illustration, and fashion design. Also want to mention, because we do get a lot of interest in engineering, and of course Belmont does not currently have a School of Engineering or professional engineering program, but we are excited to enter into a new partnership with the University of Arkansas that will provide pathways for our engineering physics graduates to have guaranteed placement and funding for a postgraduate engineering degree there at the University of Arkansas. So that is exciting news for us. Also, our Thomas F. Frist Junior College of Medicine is on track to open in fall 24. So we are super excited about that and the opportunities it will present to our undergrad pre-med students to collaborate, and not only our pre-med students, but all health science students as well, to collaborate with our medical school students to learn alongside them and learn from them as well. In terms of student support, super excited to announce that we have named our inaugural Vice President for Hope, Unity, and Belonging, Dr. D'Angelo Taylor, who is coming to us from Central State University in Ohio. He will be serving as the Vice President and Director of our Hub, which is going to be our Center for Hope, Unity, and Belonging that we are opening up, and just very excited to have Dr. Taylor join us to lead our university's diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging initiatives, and to be able to provide that space for all of our students to just have a place to be themselves and to share in their unique identities and celebrate those identities with our campus. Also, we are offering in our residential life and housing a first-gen housing experience for the fall 23. We have certainly seen an increase in the number of first-generation students, college students who are attending Belmont, and so this is a unique opportunity for them to opt into this housing experience if they wish to just have a community that they can form there within each other and have some additional supports as they learn how to navigate college life here, and have the support systems in place and some financial incentives in place for them as well. So that is an opportunity we are offering for the fall of 23. Lastly, just want to share a little bit of why Belmont. We get asked a lot of, what kind of student makes a good Belmont student, and so wanted to share the results from a recent survey that we put out to our prospective students on what's important to them. And so more than half of them responded that their passion is their main motivator, and their ideal career involves something that makes a difference in the world, and that above all, these students find joy in healing, helping, or teaching others. So our students truly come with a servant heart and looking to see how they can take their passions and their skills and their knowledge to just get out there and make our world a better place. And so I think those would be the type of students that would make good fits for us at Belmont. All right, and so with that, I'm going to pass it over to EPSU.
Alrighty, thank you, Caroline. Can you guys hear me all right? All right, awesome. Well, thank you all for having me today. My name is Avery Lewis. I'm an admissions counselor with East Tennessee State University. I will take the time. Some of our biggest highlights is going to be our rankings that we received in the past year, but we've also expanded some of our academic programming to where we now have 165 academic programs at ETSU. This past fall, we also brought in one of our largest freshman classes we've ever had, brought in 2,056 freshmen. So we're pushing up to about 14,000 students, representing now 65 countries, universities and all 50 states here in the US. We're constantly pushing towards our growth goals to hopefully get towards 18,000 students here in the next few years. As it stands right now, our past class had an average of a 3.5 GPA and a 23 ACT. To get admitted, students just need a 2.3 or a 17 ACT, and we do allow for super scores. We also allow super scoring within our scholarships, and for our 21-22 aid year, we gave out $20.4 million in institutional aid. 83% of our students were on some form of financial aid, and over almost half of our students graduated from ETSU debt-free. Despite us pushing towards our growth goals, we're still maintaining a 15-to-1 student-faculty ratio and an average class size of 20 students. We have some excellent programming. Health science is going to be the bulk of that. We have over 40 health science programs, and we still do maintain lower class sizes over in that programming. Some of our more notable rankings, actually, back in the beginning of this year, our digital animation program got ranked number 7th in the nation. Game design is also, I believe they are number 14 at the moment, and we have the top digital animation game design program in Tennessee. Also paired with that, we have one of the best computing programs, especially involving cybersecurity and modern networks. Our business programming has been ranked in the top 5% internationally, and recently our clinical doctoral psychology program was ranked number 1 in the country. We also have over 240 organizations that are going to be active this coming year. So we have a lot to offer for our students. We're maintaining accessibility and making sure we maintain our affordability here for the state of Tennessee. All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Jordan Hodges. I am an Associate Director of Recruiting and Information Systems at Lipscomb University. And similar to Carolyn and ETSU, we've got a lot of exciting things going on, but just wanted to highlight a few of the accolades and some of the new programs that we've had in the last few years. So we have reached the #1 undergraduate business program in the state of Tennessee for 6 years in a row. So we're super proud of our College of Business, and we also reached our highest level of accreditation this past year. So that was 5 years in the making. So now we are AACSB accredited, and only 6% of business schools internationally reach that level. So again, really proud of our College of Business, and it continues to be one of our most popular programs for students that are choosing Lipscomb and coming to Nashville to study business and the environment that provides. We also launched our Leading and Innovating for Future Teachers, or otherwise known as the LIFT program. And so that is a new program launched this year for students who are looking to major in education, specifically graduating from a Metro Nashville public school. So the goal for that is to recruit and retain future educators for MMPS. And so we are partnering with 10 students a year to provide them with a full tuition and fee scholarship to Lipscomb to major in education, so that, again, we can continue to provide high quality teachers for Metro Nashville public schools once they have graduated. So again, this is the first year we've done it. So it's been really exciting just to see the opportunities for higher education that has opened up for some of our local students. We've also launched the Center for Vocational Discovery. So in the past year, we established a new strategic plan for Lipscomb, and part of this was the Center for Vocational Discovery. And this is a program that all of our students will participate in. And the goal of it is just to really enrich and kind of unify each year of a student's college experience. So we have rolled it out with our freshman class. So this year is the first group that will be participating in it, and or the class that started in fall of 2022, and each year is going to focus on a different theme. So their first year is identity, and so the big question that they're trying to answer is, who am I? And so when they come in for their orientation week, they're taking the Strengths Finders test, they're working through that in some of their general education classes and their Bible classes. And then in year 2, they move into the theme is purpose. And so why am I here? And what am I going to use my strengths in the identity questions that we kind of answered in year 1. Year 3, as they move into like declaring their major and moving it further, getting closer and closer to graduation, we start to think about vocation. And so what should I do? And what am I going to do with these questions, again, that I've answered in year 1 and year 2. And then lastly, during year 4, they're focusing on location. So where should I go? So obviously we want to prepare our students to be really successful from an academic standpoint and to go out into the their job and their career, but we also want to prepare them for a really purposeful life and see how we can intertwine that into their experience at Lipscomb. So like I said, we're about to wrap up our first year of students participating in this program. And so far we've gotten some really great feedback from those and that it's been really enriching to their college experience. So lots of exciting things going on here at Lipscomb, and we're continuing to grow, which is exciting. We've had 2 years of record undergraduate enrollment with our first time freshmen, and we're hoping to continue that into 2023.
All right, hello y'all. For those of y'all I haven't had the pleasure to meet, my name's Hector Hernandez. I am one of the freshman admissions recruiters here at MTSU. I serve the Knoxville and Tri-Cities region. And I just want to show y'all just what we got going on new here at MTSU. So one thing we want to do is that we want to make it as affordable as possible for students to come in and study. And so we have our December 1st guaranteed scholarships that have no separate application. And they're available to all freshmen that apply with a 3.5 6-semester GPA. And we recently expanded and increased the dollar amount that come in as part of these scholarships. So first up is our True Blue Scholarship, which is our 22 to 24 ACT bracket. We increased that scholarship to $2,000 a year to $3,500 a year for all 4 years on top. And this stacks on top of Hope, on top of the Pell Grant. And this is the highest amount in the state of Tennessee for this ACT bracket there. We also expanded our Centennial Scholarship for our highest achievers in the 34 to 36 ACT range, bumping that up from $5,000 to $8,000 a year. And then we also have some of the more uncommon programs that you don't see at a lot of other schools, but that we do boast. We have aerospace being the only accredited flight school in the state of Tennessee. We have recording industry, audio production, also do have animation and some of the very cool media entertainment majors that we have. But then we also have some new programs coming down the pipe. So we are adding a brand new physician assistant school as a new postgraduate offering here at MTSU. We're also adding a master's in athletic training. So the bachelor's program will be going away, but we are adding a master's in athletic training. It will be the second public school in the state of Tennessee to offer that. And we are adding a brand new undergraduate program in public writing and rhetoric as well. Got a couple fun new buildings coming along to give our students the best facilities and the best materials to work with. And so one of that is our concrete and construction industry management building. And we opened that last October during our fall break. That was $40 million, and it helps give them bigger labs to work on bigger projects. And we are one of only 4 schools nationwide to offer the concrete program. And aerospace being such a big facility, we've needed to move and get a little more space. So we're moving the bulk of our operations from the Murfreesboro Municipal Airport to Shelbyville in Bedford County. And that'll be coming in 2026. That'll be a $60 million facility, new expanded labs, expanded simulators, and a lot less of conflicting space with commercial airlines that we would have run into in Murfreesboro. So that's a very new building that we're very proud about that's coming soon. And then we also have a very cool fun entertainment to give the students a very cool experience while they're here. We've had Jack Harlow and Winona Judd perform in our Murphy Center in the past year as it celebrates its 50th anniversary. And then we also have had 4 athletics teams come away with wins over nationally ranked opponents. This includes our football team that won at Miami in September, which was very big. And our women's basketball team is ranked number 24. But here at MTSU, we got a lot going on in just a short little time. And we'd love to see you a lot in Murfreesboro very soon. Thank y'all so much for having me.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Piyush Kumar from Rhodes College, located in Memphis, Tennessee. Nice to meet all of you. But not a whole lot of new stuff going on at Rhodes, but just wanted to go over a couple of things that we have going. We are really, really excited to announce that we have an undergraduate certificate in journalism through our English department here at Rhodes. One of the most sought after disciplines from our current English majors and prospective students coming in, saying that they wanted a journalism experience. So this is definitely a step in the right direction to eventually going towards a minor or a major at Rhodes. But we are really excited about the potential for students to graduate with a major in English, focusing particularly in journalism. A new addition to campus, we are continuing our construction on a new apartment-style residence hall with an accompanying multicultural lodge for increasing diversity and inclusion on campus. This was set to be complete in January, but with supply chain issues, we're hoping to have it done sometime in April. And this will be primarily a junior and senior dorm but it will be a great addition, especially for students to live on campus. We have a 3-year residency requirement for living on campus at Rhodes, so this will add additional space for our students. We are really excited about some new leadership that we've had join our campus as well. Our 21st president, Jennifer M. Collins, started in July. She's coming to us from the law school at SMU. She has done a fantastic job already, showcasing a lot of leadership. Student body absolutely loves her, and we're really excited to see kind of what she does in the future for Rhodes. Also, VP of Enrollment, Gil Villanueva, is joining us as well from the University of Richmond. He was there for about 13 years. And again, as a direct supervisor for me in the admission office, he has done a fantastic job so far at leading us. And again, very excited to see what will come with his plans and ideas. And just some new admission and enrollment policies. We are really excited to finally have a permanent test optional policy for admission and merit-based scholarship consideration. This will open up a tremendous amount of doors for students, and we're really excited about the potential to evaluate all of our candidates for test optional if they choose that. And then a priority deadline for merit-based scholarship opportunities, which was set at December 1st. So for students to apply for our highest scholarships, sending in the application early will definitely benefit them with those merit-based scholarships. We had some flexibility with that, obviously setting it for our first year doing that. For students, if they applied a little bit later than December 1st, but really sticking to that in the future years is something we're excited about. But thank you guys so much. Really excited about these new changes for Rhodes, and yeah, excited for what the future has to hold.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Butler, and I'm the Senior Associate Director of Admission here at Sewanee. On the campus side of things, we're really excited because we have a new Vice Chancellor. It's our 18th Vice Chancellor. His name is Rob Perigin. He's an alum, class of 76. He's coming to us from Millsaps, where he's been for the past 13 years. Before that, he was working at Sewanee as the Dean of Students and working in advancement. He's also the parent of 2 Sewanee students, so he knows Sewanee from many different perspectives, and so we're excited to have him on campus. You may be hearing the tornado siren, so we're under a tornado warning, and now it's a watch. So I'll scurry through this and then I'm going to leave. But another exciting thing is we now have an Office of Student Success that opened last fall. It's a one-stop shop for students to get connected with the support they need. So it starts with advising, and then if they need to drop a class, or if they need help with financial aid, or if they need help with wellness or directions to go anywhere on campus, they're going to go right to the Office of Student Success. We're also really excited that we'll be finishing our new social commons at the end of the semester. I think a lot of schools have a big social commons, and what we have is 3 different social commons: a learning commons, 3 commons. We have a learning commons, we have a wellness commons, and now we're going to have a social commons that's all about fun. And we're really excited about that. And then on the admission side of things, we've wrapped up app review. Our regular decisions went out last night. Yay. And in terms of just, like looking at what happened this year, domestic apps were up a little bit, and then internationals were up a lot. So sorry about the sirens in the background. It was nice talking to you all, and I'm going to go.
Hi, my name is Terrence Banks. I'm the Associate Director of Recruitment at the undergraduate office at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. I have a couple of quick facts about the university, and then I give some updates about our campus and our process. So the first thing are our admission requirements. So that's a 2.85 with at least an 18 on the ACT, or 2.5 with a 21. We are no longer test optional. That potentially will be revisited this year. But as of this point, we are no longer test optional. And I know that's been the case the past 2 years. Also, I want to talk about our student to teacher ratio, which is 19:1, and our average class size is about 25. Our overall campus population is a little bit under 12,000 students. That includes the graduate level students as well. In terms of helping students get acclimated to campus life, to see what we offer at UTC, we do have over 150 different clubs and organizations. And then the last thing is their academic ventures. So we do offer over 100 majors. Our most popular programs are engineering, nursing, business, education, and psychology is like ramping up for some strange reason. I'm not entirely sure why students love to do the things they do at UTC, but those are our popular things. In terms of changes or updates, first off, we have increased our merit-based scholarships by $1,000 at each level. So our mock scholarship, our provost, and our chancellor scholarship has increased in award level. Additionally, we still have the UT Promise, which is a tuition-based scholarship opportunity. If a student meets the requirements for the UT Promise, then they would be eligible to get all of their tuition paid for through the UT system. Then the last update is the Vol Connect program that we just released information about. So it's still pretty fresh for me, but for students who are interested in going to UTK and who have applied, they would have received a letter of essentially deferment because they don't meet the requirements at this point. But if they go to UTC, UT Martin, or UT Health Science, and they do 1 year and meet the requirements, they can automatically transfer into UTK. So we're trying to make that process a whole lot smoother. And that's pretty much my university in a nutshell, and just about all the updates that we have for you from UTC at this point.
Cool. Well, I will round us out and finish things off, saving the best for last, obviously, of course. But at Vanderbilt, a few updates, things that have been going on over the past few months. First, we do have a couple of brand new majors that just launched this year. Climate Studies, which launched this past fall, and Asian American and Asian Diaspora Studies that launched this spring. We're really excited about both of them, both very interdisciplinary by nature, and both of these majors are housed within our College of Arts and Science. As you all may know, when a student applies to Vanderbilt, not only are they applying to Vanderbilt overall, but they're also applying into one of our 4 different undergraduate schools and colleges. So if you have any students who may be a really good fit for one of these programs, just advise them that they'll be applying into the College of Arts and Science. On a programming note, we have a couple of kind of really cool events that are coming up over the next handful of weeks. First, this weekend, Vanderbilt is hosting the Clinton Global Initiative. This is essentially kind of a worldwide seminar, symposium, however you want to think of it, where there will be global leaders, thought leaders, entrepreneurs, business people, educators, kind of anything that you can think of, descending on the Vanderbilt campus to kind of discuss all things global relations. Certainly there's much to discuss these days. So we'll have some exciting speakers here in Nashville this weekend. No, I don't have dinner with the Clintons planned just yet, but who knows if Bill and Hill have some time, I'll see if I can hang out with them tomorrow. But especially those of y'all in Middle Tennessee may see some coverage about that on the news and just different ways to connect with those programs virtually, should you have an interest. We're also celebrating Vanderbilt's 150th birthday, what's called the Sesquicentennial. We will have a handful of different events happening. Specifically wanted to mention, if anyone's going to be in Nashville towards the end of this month, that last Saturday, it's like the 25th or 26th, we'll have a huge kind of community-wide celebration, kind of family fun event happening on Alumni Lawn, which is right next to the admissions building, essentially right here, if you will, of where my background is. And literally anyone's invited. So Middle Tennessee folks, if you need something to do with your kids, bring them to Vanderbilt, throw them in the lawn, and have a great time for the Sesquicentennial. Also, a couple of quick admissions updates to round things off. We, of course, have launched our early decision 1 and 2 releases earlier this year. Some kind of quick stats on that. Acceptance rate for ED combined this year sat at 15.7%. To put that in reference to last year was about 17.2%. So we did see an increase in early decision applications, as I've heard with a lot of peer institutions, certainly an increase in the competitiveness of that pool as well. We are wrapping up our regular decision reading, and my pupils are excited about that. My eyes are ready to stop reading a little bit, but we are planning on getting those decisions released, of course, at the end of this month, as we always do. final note, we are really excited to launch a new rural initiative, and much more to come on this in a few weeks. There's not a ton that I'm kind of officially at liberty to share right now, but just know that this rural initiative is going to be something that we are focusing specifically on the state of Tennessee within, and I'll actually be leading this initiative for our office, and wanted to bring it up now in case there are any counselors that do work with rural communities. Feel free to reach out to me. I will probably be in touch with you at some point over the next few weeks and months as we flesh out what this looks like. This will both be for on-campus programming and for outreach and recruitment that we do throughout the state of Tennessee. So more to come there. But that will round things out for my section and for this entire section and our entire program. Overall, thank you to our college reps for joining us during what's probably your lunch hour to be able to give some updates to all of our counselors here on the call. My final housekeeping note, Carolyn, tell me if you have anything else, is please, attendees, make sure that you're filling out that survey. Again, this is our first year doing this virtually, so we really welcome any and all feedback that you may have. We thank you for working with us through the fun that is Zoom and the fun that is a sweeping storm crossing the state while the program's going on as well. So thanks again for your patience with us. If you do have any questions, reach out to myself or Carolyn. We hope to see a lot of y'all in Jacksonville in April. Other than that, hope y'all have a great rest of your day. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you next time.